What's up, everybody? Good morning. It's the CPS Punisher. Better yet, good luck afternoon. Hey, we have Mark Ludwig right here. We didn't forget, just running a little bit late, but he's doing his seminar today. It's about 3.5, 4 hours, I guess, um, of parental rights information, men's rights, women's rights, parents' rights, all kinds of stuff, guys. So make sure that you guys stay with us, watch it, share it out. We're just going to let it roll. So please, guys, enjoy. And thank you, Mark, so much for all the hard work that you've done to get this here. So that being said, here's Mr. Ludwig's presentation.
You'll just be able to watch each individual speaker, and then hopefully, if you guys can help share that, it'll help out quite a bit. But we've got a lot of people coming on. I know we're going to have Emma Johnson later on today. Emma did a great job. She wrote her book, The 50-50 Solution. She is a great advocate talking from a woman's perspective, and it really helps to have a female advocating for this. So we really appreciate that. And it does look like our next speaker is in the back studio now. So great to have him on. He has been a great advocate down in Arkansas. And the first state to pass was Kentucky. And we're going to be hearing from Matt Hale later today. Matt did a great job breaking that 4-minute mile barrier. And then right behind them came Arkansas, and Arkansas did a great job. I could not putting Kentucky down or any other state. Right now we have 5 states that have rebuttable presumptions, but I think the strongest of the states at this point is the Arkansas bill. So really proud of Arkansas Advocates for Parental Equality. They've got a Facebook page. They have a website. We've got one of their representatives here. Yeah, so they have a website. I'll have Brian talk about that when we bring him on. So Brian, if you're there, Brian was a part of that team that helped lead that. He's an attorney. Oh, make sure you unmute. Okay. Brian's an attorney, just a wealth of knowledge. And once again, a great team player. And there have been times when I needed funds to go on a trip. And I'll tell you what, Arkansas Advocates for Parental Equality helped out with several of those trips. So Brian, good to have you with us. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark. Glad to be a part of this, and what a great job, great program today.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to really interrupt too much. I just want to hear your thoughts as an attorney and the things that you've seen. What are your thoughts on Arkansas as far as passing the bill? But also, as you find out, it's not just getting a bill passed. Once you pass a bill, you've got to protect that bill and defend that bill and be on the lookout for other things that come up. So
that's
any
right.
thoughts that you have along that realm there?
Viewers, as you said,
oh, it's cutting out. Is that on me or is?
Am I back?
Okay, you're back.
Arkansas was the second state to pass a rebuttable presumption, Act 604 of 2021. We're proud of that work. I'm proud of the other states as well, but we are still the only state to adopt a rebuttable presumption that changes the burden of proof to clear and convincing evidence. And so in our view, we didn't just change the goalposts, we changed the playing field because as most everyone in this arena knows, that is the heavy lift. If you can do that, it really fundamentally changes the analysis and the equation for protecting joint custody because it's an element of due process. That's what burdens of proof are. They're creatures of due process. And at the bottom, this is all about fairness and protecting fairness for the parents and the children. So we're proud of that work and proud of the statute we passed. Since 2021, we've seen a significant decrease in divorces.
Uh-oh, it's cutting out again.
And
it's cutting out again right as you were giving the statistics. Is that me cutting out or is that on Brian's end? Okay. Oh, it looks like you're coming back, right? We lost you right as you were getting into the statistics of the decrease in divorce rates.
Yeah, so a decrease in divorce rates and decrease in paternity actions and protective orders. So, whether that's protective orders. So, whether that's directly caused by our statute or not, that's always hard to prove. We think there's certainly a correlation there, and we're happy to see those numbers trending in the right way. We've also seen positive developments in the case law in our in the past 4 years. Several great decisions. In October of 2024, the Heilman v. Cahoon decision, and really just reiterates that, quote, in Arkansas, one thing is clear. Our legislature has determined that joint custody is favored, with an award of custody being made.
Uh-oh, it froze up again. Huh. We lost you again while you were going through the case, Brian, if you're still able to hear. Oh, okay, you're back now. We lost you as you were getting into the case law.
Yeah, so the Heilman decision from October was a great decision. Just kind of highlighted that Arkansas, one thing is clear, that joint custody is favored, and the courts need to take notice of that. And so we're proud of that development in the law. We're seeing a lot of positive results. And from all of the judges and attorneys that I've talked to, even the ones that were hesitant before the presumption was passed, they now say, well, this is actually it was a good thing. It's working very well, and it's trimmed the cases down and focused the courts on the cases that really needed to be litigated.
Well, we've got you on too, because some people may not understand preponderance of evidence, clear and convincing evidence, what the thresholds are. So for people who aren't, can you go through that?
Yeah, so preponderance of evidence is your standard civil burden of proof. It's 50% plus
Crud, it looks like we lost connection again, Brian. Shoot, that's a shame, because you've got some good information. I'm loving your information. So the good news is that Brian Lee's going to be able to edit and splice so that we can get the meat, because you've got some good information here.
Yeah.
If you can try running through real quick again, the preponderance, convincing.
So preponderance is think of it as the scales evenly balanced, 50-50, and one feather falls one way or the other. That's preponderance of evidence. That's the way my law professor described it. Of course, we always have the criminal standard beyond reasonable doubt. In between that's an intermediary standard of clear and convincing evidence. And some people try to, say, well, 75%. We're not talking about 100%. We're not talking about 50%, but somewhere in that intermediary standard. And it's usually used to protect constitutional rights, contract rights, things of that nature.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate you. Also, can you give your website information?
Sure, we are. Yeah, so we're Facebook.
Uh-oh, it cut out again. Hold on, we lost you again, Brian. So when you come back up, I definitely want to have you give the website again. Oh, I think you're back again.
Okay, so we have a Facebook account, Arkansas Advocates for Parental Equality, and then our website is parentalequalityar.org. We're kind of the leading advocate group for shared parenting and equal parenting in Arkansas, and we constantly work with legislators here to not only pass good law, but as you said, to defeat bad laws, bad bills, and protect what we've already passed. The bill that did pass this past session was Act 388 of 2025, and we extended the similar protections that military service men and women have to first responders in our state. So now first responders in Arkansas, like firefighters, police, EMT, they have the same protections under our custody law as military service men and women.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. We appreciate you very much. And like I said, you guys have been great to work with and leaders in the whole country. So I appreciate you very, very much. Oops, I got stuck again. Okay, guys. Hold on here. We're switching. Brian, just so you know, we are switching up the schedule a little bit. I did get a message from Representative Jim Murphy. He's going to be running behind. He's checking into a hotel right now. So we're going to switch him to, I think, 3:50. He's going to be after Emma Johnson. In the meantime, we may end up in a little while having Representative Jamie Ray Gregg, who literally, ironically, just texted me right as Jim Murphy was texting me saying, hey, I'm running late. Is there any chance you've got another opening somewhere? And literally right after I get that, I get a message from Representative Gregg that says, hey, if anybody cancels, let me know and I can fill some space for you. So in a little while, we're going to bring Jamie Ray Gregg in, Brian, just so you know, and we're moving Representative Jim Murphy is going to be after Emma Johnson. So I think we have Elizabeth McNeese, then Danica Dockery, and then Emma Johnson. So in the meantime, like I said, I do appreciate everybody being a little flexible. This is my first time doing this, in case you're wondering. Like, he sure seems uncoordinated doing this. This is our first time, and it is quite a logistical process, guys, to try and put 48 different videos or speakers into one program. And would have helped. I think some of you know I did get invited to the White House last week, and the good news is we made some progress, and I might actually talk about that now. But the bad news, it took 5 days of planning out of this event. And normally my dad was an engineer, so I like to have everything planned to every detail. And unfortunately, we had to sort of punt on a couple of things here, so we're going to have to just sort of go with it. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about a little bit of that right now for you, for those of you that didn't catch some of the videos of what happened on that trip, how it came about. And then Brian, remind me, feel free to just go ahead and jump on if I ramble too long, Brian, but I do want to make sure that we put Chris's video on, and then we're going to bring Jamie Gregg on after Chris's video. But just real quick, I had gone to the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, had their annual conference in Lynchburg, Virginia. A great supporter of ours, Senator Jason Rapert from Arkansas, who works very closely with Arkansas Advocates for Parental Equality. Matter of fact, they'd been telling me for, I think, a couple of years, and we got some of their team here helping me out with the backstage stuff here, but they've been telling me for years, man, you got to meet this guy, Mark. He's like right up our alley. His board of directors are a couple of your friends. You got to meet this guy. And it registered, but I didn't make an aggressive pursuit that I probably should have to meet him. And about 1.5 years ago, I was out at Laguna Beach, California for a meeting with a bunch of legislators that Bob McEwen had put together. And they didn't want people to sit with the same clique, especially people like me. I'm normally not the outgoing people you think. I have to actually work myself up to go out to a stranger and say, hi, I'm Mark Ludwig. That's normally not me, believe it or not. So I like that kind of thing. But anyways, I sit down at this table and I couldn't believe, I look at the name tag next to me and it says Honorable Jason Rapert. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the guy that they've been telling me I need to meet. And it was almost like a God thing, just a great meeting. And he's been a great supporter of ours. He's got a very well-connected board of directors. Bob McEwen, who's one of the most influential people in Washington, D.C. Many people consider Bob one of the top 10 most influential people in the Beltway on the conservative side. But Bob's on his board of directors. Tony Perkins, the head of Family Research Council. Mike Huckabee, David Barton from Wall Builders. Bill Fetter, a good friend of mine who's a best-selling author, but a great board of directors. But he had a conference in Lynchburg again a couple weeks ago that I was out at that. And while we were there, he had a mutual friend of ours as a guest speaker who works at the White House. She's a policy director on faith issues for the president. So I got to spend some time with her. They were having a commission meeting coming up the next week, which was a week and a half ago in Washington, D.C. And it was supposed to be a very small group. On the committee, it's the Commission for Religious Liberty. So it was a neat group of people. Cardinal Dolan was on it, Pam Bondi, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick from Texas, Ben Carson, a really neat group of people, and I was invited to go. And while I was going anyway, I decided, you know what, Vince Haley, who's the domestic policy director for the White House, had given me the name of someone to talk to about fatherhood issues. So sent the guy a message saying, hey, I'm going to this other thing. Do you have some time available? So he invites me over to the White House, and I go and meet with him. And guys, I tell you, it was a great meeting. I got a 30-minute meeting for this first one. Just so you know, when you're dealing with the White House, you're not going to come slamming in and lay out a proposal and they go, oh, wow, we just had no idea until you came in. Let's go to the president immediately and sign an executive order in the Rose Garden tomorrow. That's not going to happen. Guys, it's almost like dogs sniffing each other. You know, until they first, and they do the little circle where they sniff around and you see their tails ducking down while they're trying to figure out whether they like each other or not. That's what happens. I mean, I didn't sniff this guy, just so you know, but that's what happens at the White House. Your first meeting, you're sort of getting to know each other, getting a feel for personality temperaments, what they like. He's trying to understand, am I somebody that's credible or am I some wackadoo that's out there? And I'm trying to figure out, is he going to be easy to deal with or is he a mole for the opposition? So the first meeting is kind of like that. But I went in with two main goals because you can't come in with too many asks. But the two main goals that I told him I wanted to address, number one, Title 4D reform. And number two, setting up a council for boys and men that Warren Farrell has been wanting to do for years. And Warren has a conference call that I was just on, I think last week, that he puts together twice a month. We all get together on this conference call. And so that was the two things I went on, and a very good reception on both. The Council for Boys and Men, I think we actually have a shot. Now, it's not going to happen right away. For those of you that have dealt with issues at the state level, they deal with somewhere around 1,000, 2,000 issues, depending on the state. Now, Texas will get 4,000 to 5,000 potential bill ideas per session. At the federal level, with a senator from any state, they deal with about 80,000 issues in any given year. 80,000 different lobbyists or constituents bringing up some different issue, not 80,000 lobbyists. This is 80,000 issues that they have to research. At the presidential level, guys, it's over 200,000 people since Trump came in office that say whether you like him or you hate him, he's the first president in our lifetime that if anything was going to be changed in Title 4D meaningfully, it's going to be Trump, because he's not afraid to push the apple cart or shake the apple cart or some kind of thing like that. And so everybody and their brother. So as a result, we're not a first-year issue. I think we should be. To you and I, it's a first-year issue, but we're not going to be able to push it as a first-year issue. We're going to be the end of the second year or a third-year issue. So you have to have a strategy going in. You don't push too hard. You go in early and you plant your seed, and then you touch base with them about every 6 to 8 weeks. You don't want it to go too long or they forget about you. You don't want to go too often or you're a pest. So that's why I'm constantly raising funds. Is I need to be in DC every 6 to 8 weeks, just making a point of contact. And my goal is every one of these trips to have a meeting with at least one member of the White House staff, just so that they remember and they create what I call the chatter. Anybody who's ever been to the Missouri Capitol knows, and Jamie Gregg will talk about that. He's going to be on in a little bit here. But, oh, that's right. Hold on here. Let me see. Yeah, can you text Jamie and make sure that you ask him if he has the link and tell him to go ahead and just call on in and the link. We're going to put him on a video, but tell him he'll be in backstage for a little while. And that is Jamie Gregg that I set up. Okay. But anyways, Jamie will tell you, if you go to the Missouri State Capitol, those legislators talk about our issue when I'm not there. I was just at a barbecue with a bunch of legislators the other day, and they were like, "Oh man, we were talking about you at the Capitol during the veto session." So they talk about or special session, not veto session, but they talk. That's what you want when they're talking about us and our issue when we're not there. So that's what we're hoping at the White House. And we had a great first meeting. I think the Title 4D issue, he gave me a connection that I think I mentioned. Used to work with Roy Blunt, so unfortunately, that's the guy who the president directly deals with on Title 4D issues. So I do want to meet with him my next trip. If we can raise enough funds today, my goal is to be back in DC sometime in August, meeting with literally the person that the president meets with on HHS issues. So if you can contribute, guys, the door's open. I literally have the door open for a meeting that we've never had with the person who the president directly consults on HHS issues. But so that part went very well. The Commission for Boys and Men, I think we have another avenue through my other contact in the faith office, through that faith policy director that I was talking about. So I think we got some very good ins. We're very fortunate. A lot of you know that my friend Ed Martin, who's been a friend and mentor of mine for like 20 years, is now the director of weaponization for the president in the Department of Justice. And then Will Scharf, who Will may be tuning in. He watches a lot of my Facebook Lives. A lot of you know Will from St. Louis here, a very good friend of both Levi and I. He was at the president's house in Bedminster over the summer. There's pictures of Levi and I and Will in front of the president's house at Bedminster. But Will is now literally the legislative director that you see standing next to the president. Anytime you see the president on TV, somewhere to the side of him is Will Scharf, the balding type guy. So we've got a lot of ins with the White House at this point. Okay, hold on here. Let me just double check here. Cool. All right. So we do have some ins at the White House. So it was just a very, very neat trip. And like I said, as opposed to 11 years ago when I first started on the scene in shared parenting, people are like, we can't get a door open. Guys, it's the reverse now. The doors are open. They are literally asking us for meetings. Another meeting that I had while I was on that trip, it is amazing. And you've got to use the leverage, not to name drop, but when you go to a member of Congress and you say, hey, I'm sitting in the Commission of Religious Liberty meeting right now. That's a very, very vetted meeting. You literally have to have Secret Service approval. It's very hard to get in that room, and I was in that room. So I figured, why not play the card? Members of Congress know that you don't just walk into that room. You have to be vetted to get approved. You have to have an invite from somebody pretty high up to be in the room. They also know you just don't randomly have meetings at the White House. So I sent a text while I was in that meeting on, I think it was that Monday morning, saying, hey, there's a member of Congress that Eric Burleson, who's the congressman from Springfield, told me. He's like, Mark, this is an influential person that if you get them, you're going to get 40 votes. So you need to meet with this specific person. So I sent a text saying, hey, I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm actually sitting in the Commission for Religious Liberty meeting, and I do have a meeting with so-and-so, and I mentioned the name, and they would know who it is. I don't want to mention it because sometimes people find out who I talk to, and then they call trying to be all stories. Please don't do that because that really creates a bad image for legislators. But I said, hey, I've got a meeting with so-and-so at the White House tomorrow, and it's amazing when you play that card, do it the right way, your calls get answered. So they said, absolutely. If you're in town, we'll meet with you. So I met with them that afternoon, and the doors open with them too. They literally said, write us a draft of what you want for Title IV-D reform, and we'll take a look at it on your next visit. That's exactly what they said, guys. So the door is open at this point. And this is a person who I believe will get us at least 30 to 40 co-sponsors for this type of bill. So that's why I'm always asking for money is we're getting results. You know, if you invest in a business, you want to know, what are you doing with this money? Are you getting results? Guys, I'll tell you what, we're getting results. We have the door open at the White House. We have a door open at HHS. We have a member of U.S. Congress that's so influential they can get us 30 to 40 co-sponsors who literally said, on your next trip to D.C., bring a copy of the bill and let's talk about that bill. So the doors are open. I just need to get the funds, and that's one thing we're hoping to do. So at the bottom of the stream, I think Brian has trust me, guys, we're going to get results. I can promise you out of that. So at this point, Brian, why don't we go ahead and do the Chris Batchelor video. Chris has been another great team player. He's from NPO, Kansas. And same thing, I'm going to be going to Dallas for some meetings with legislators in December 4th and 5th. We are going to have a live shared parenting event. That'll be on a Thursday and Friday. So unfortunately, you will have to take off work probably, and there will be some travel. But we're going to have several legislators at that event, including Jamie Gregg, who you're going to hear from after this next video. But we're going to have quite a few legislators at that event on December 4th, that Thursday afternoon. But when I put the information out, Chris immediately sent me a private message. Hey, Mark, let me know what you need. Let me know what can I do to help. So I appreciate his mentality of always having that giver's gain mentality. What can I do to pitch in and help? So at this point, let me introduce a pre-recorded video by Chris Batchelor.
Has the family court system damaged your relationship with your child? Were you shocked by how little due process there was? You're not alone, and now you can be part of the solution. For the last 11 years, Mark Ludwig has led the charge for shared parenting reform. He's met face-to-face with over 700 legislators, hosted over 70 events, and pushed legislation in 31 states just last year. Now he's building something bigger. The A-Team, trained advocates in all 50 states. People like you stepping up for kids and real change. By joining Mark's Legislative Leadership Development Program, you'll get strategy sessions with Mark and guest legislators, on-demand training videos, research and AI tools to influence lawmakers, and a seat on Mark's legislative team. We're meeting with lawmakers in just 2 weeks, and we want you in the room. Don't just hope for change, be the reason it happens. Join the movement, join the A-Team. Visit stlmarkludwig.com and click the membership tab to get started.
I'm the Kansas chair of the National Parents Organization, and I'm also the author of the Dad's Divorce Guide. But today I'm here to talk to you about op-eds and letters to the editor. So let's get started. First, what is the difference between an op-ed and a letter to the editor? All right, first, a letter to the editor is usually a short, focused response to a recent article, editorial, or event covered by the newspaper. An op-ed, now that's a little bit longer piece that you submit for consideration, sharing your viewpoint on an issue like shared parenting or family law reform. If you're new to this, start with a letter to the editor. It's a great first step. Both formats can influence public opinion and decision makers. All right, let's talk about why your voice matters. There are many people that believe that the family court system is broken, but lawmakers and the public won't know how widespread the concern is unless they hear it from you. So op-eds and letters help raise awareness about the need for shared parenting laws. They put pressure on courts and lawmakers to prioritize children's well-being, and they show that the family law reform has broad public support. Your voice adds to the growing call for change. All right, the next thing is to know your
Okay, so I'm
audience.
back up at this
Before
point.
you write, read the paper.
And we are going to have
Figure out who the
representative-
typical readers are. Is it a small-time paper?
Hold on here. Brian's got to
Is it a big
communicate with
city
me. What do we
outlet?
need?
Is it conservative or progressive? Frame your message in a way that connects. For example, you can say, no matter your politics, we can all agree that kids do best when both parents stay
Okay, so
actively
now in my
involved
life,
after
Brian?
divorce. All right, the next tip is to keep it short and focused. For letters to the editor, you only want about 150 to 250 words. For op-eds, they're usually about 500 to 750 words. Don't try and cover every problem with the family courts. Focus on one key point, and those can be why shared parenting should be the starting point in custody cases, how outdated laws hurt kids and families, or your personal experience with the system. Keep it short because if it's too long, it's not likely to be published. All right, let's talk about how you can use a simple structure to get more attention for your story. First is the hook. Start with something attention-grabbing, a fact, a personal story, or a connection to a recent news story. Next, explain your point. Clearly state your opinion and back it up with facts, personal experience, or both. Last, have a call to action or a conclusion. End with a strong statement about what needs to change, a new law, more public discussion, or policy reform. All right, the next tip is published, and they won't win hearts and minds if they do. Speak firmly, but stay respectful. It shows maturity and keeps the focus where it belongs, on improving outcomes for children. The next tip is to use personal facts and stories. The simple fact is that facts build credibility. For example, over 60 studies show that kids do best when both parents stay involved after divorce. Personal stories create an emotional connection. For example, as a father who spent 2 years in court just to see my child, I know firsthand how broken the system is. Together, facts and personal stories are hard to ignore, so use those in your message. All right, next is to follow the paper's rules. Check the newspaper's website for limit, submission method, whether that's email or online form, etc. The required information like the name, city, or phone number, Editors will often reject submissions that don't follow guidelines no matter how strong the message is, and this goes the same for TV stations and any other news outlet that you may have. All right, I want to give you a quick example of a very short letter to the editor. Dear editor, our state's family court system is overdue for reform. Right now, too many loving parents and their children suffer from outdated custody laws that don't reflect what research shows. Kids thrive when both parents stay involved after divorce. As a parent, I've seen the emotional toll the current system takes. We need shared parenting laws that start with the assumptions that both parents should have equal time, unless there's clear evidence otherwise. It's time for lawmakers to put children first and fix our broken family courts. Sincerely, your name and your city. This is a very simple, short example. You can obviously customize it for whatever your situation is, but keep it short and keep it to the point. All right, I'm going to give you some final thoughts. Change starts with speaking up. Writing an op-ed or letter to the editor is a simple, effective way to advocate for shared parenting and family court laws. You don't have to be a legal expert. You've lived your experience. Your concerns for your kids and your voice are powerful tools for reform. Let your community and your lawmakers know that family law should focus on what matters most, helping children maintain strong, loving relationships with both parents after divorce. All right, I want to thank you for watching this, and I want to thank Mark Ludwig for putting this on. Him and his team have done a fantastic job of putting all of this information out there. Again, my name is Chris from the National Parents Organization Kansas chapter, and I'm also the author of the Dad's Divorce Guide. If you want to check it out, it's dadsdivorceguide.com. You can check it out at the website there. And really want to thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I hope you go out and use these tips to help advocate for better conditions for parents and families all over.
If you've been wanting to get active in getting legislation passed to help kids across this country, we're looking for you right now. Right now, I am currently putting together teams of people in every single state all across the country, all 50 states, in addition to an A team at the federal level. But to do that, I need people that are trained, that know the basics. I need to make sure that you know everything you need to know when you're meeting with legislators, how to handle objections, how to be able to talk to them. So we've set up a legislative leadership development program where for $30 a month, you'll have access to a complete database of resources. You'll have information on all the research that has gone on in the past. The Linda Nielsen research, the Richard Warshaw, the Bill Fabricius. You're going to have some of my training videos on how to meet with legislators, how to handle objections, how to give a testimony. We've created an AI tool where you'll be able to write letters to your legislators. So to join the team, go to STL Mark Ludwig, and there'll be a membership button on there. So go to stlmarkludwig.com, STL for St. Louis, stlmarkludwig.com, click on the membership button, and join the team. And every month you'll be updated with new information. In addition to at least once a month, I'll do a live town hall where you'll be able to interact with me and we can talk about what's going on in some of the different states, what's going on here at the federal level, and you can get direct access to find the information out. So to do that, once again, go to stlmarkludwig.com, click the membership button, and we will look forward to you being a part of the team in 2026. Okay, looks like I'm back on live. So sorry about that. I'm having to learn these production cues here from Brian. So sorry about that. Operator error on my part. But anyways, guys, kind of excited. We had a little change in plans. Jim Murphy, a representative from Missouri, is traveling, and so he's checking into a hotel right now. He's going to join us towards the end of the hour. But we got a great friend of mine. This guy has been just a phenomenal warrior for all of us in Missouri. Met him down at John Ashcroft's house. We were down there a little over a year ago with Mike Huckabee and a few other people. And oh, that's right, John Radcliffe, the new head of the CIA, was with us at the house that day. But got a chance to spend some really good quality time with Jamie. He is passionate about our issue and especially about fatherhood. So, Jamie, I think we may only have Jamie by audio. I don't know if he's going to have a camera setting or not. He'll be joining us again later on today, but are you on, Jamie?
I am here if you can hear me.
I can hear you, definitely.
Fantastic. Yeah, apparently you've got a great background and mine won't show up. So I'll get in there and I'll change some settings here in a second, and hopefully we can get it for the next session that I'm on.
Excellent. Yeah, because I think you're going to be on tonight around 7 o'clock, if I remember right. Because 7 o'clock, guys, that's the time you want to tune in. We're going to be talking about some national plans, and Jamie and I are teaming up to really work effectively and efficiently with this ALEC organization that we had the president of ALEC on earlier, Senator Rucker from West Virginia. But Jamie and I are going to be heading, and then I think you're going to be at the White House on July 8th with Tim and some of the guys from Missouri.
Yes, looking forward to that. That'll be my first time to the White House, and we're going to see if we can bend some ears on some good policy for fathers and families.
Excellent. Yeah, I know Tim's working to find out if he can get me in on that trip. We don't, since I'm not a legislator, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'm definitely going to give you some names of people at the White House for you to meet with while you're there to see if we can get some more things moving. But
that'd be great.
I appreciate you being such a good team player, and it's fun to work with. And guys, watch this name, guys. You're going to see his name a lot this year. He's going to be partnering with me a lot on this fathership bill. So I guess what we've got you on now, why don't you go ahead and talk about the Missouri fathership bill that if it wasn't for some games in the Senate on other issues, it wouldn't have to do with your bill, but your bill would have passed with flying colors. So go ahead and talk about your bill this year.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. It was passing unanimously all the way through, sailing through. What it was about 3 years ago now, the state of Florida passed a bill, and with them, it passed unanimous as well. Unanimous in the House, unanimous in the Senate. The governor had a pen warmed up and ready to sign this thing when it get through. He was salivating. What it does, because it is in action right now, is it created a line item in the Florida state budget. And they were able to put some allocation from their state budget into this, threw a bunch of money into this line item. And nonprofits and community organizations can apply towards a grant portion of that line item, the dollars in there. And those dollars had to be spent for hiring, training, and facilitating fathership engagement professionals. And that's kind of like a caseworker, because what happened was it's a large state, much larger than the state of Missouri. These community organizations are plugged into the communities. And when a dad who is now unengaged with his kids for one reason or another, whether it be legal reasons, dad just checked out, roadblocks and barriers that just keep him from being dad, for whatever reasons, dads can be referred to these organizations, or they can come to these organizations, these nonprofits or community organizations, and they can say, hey, I need to be back in front of my kids. My kids need me. And that's no lie. Kids need moms, kids need dads, both together equally. And these organizations with these fathership engagement professionals, kind of a caseworker, that caseworker will make a one-on-one program with dad to get him from point A to kids. Whether that's dad needs to go through occupational training to get a better job to be able to support, or anger management, or help him navigate the court systems if there's something there. Whatever the unique situation is, it helps dad navigate that so that kids now are the winners and they have dad back. That's the goal. And so I took that legislation that they unanimously passed through. Florida did a phenomenal job. They were the number one on this topic. And I brought that to Missouri. And of course, not all states are the same. We tailored it to the state of Missouri so that it fits what we have going on here. It sailed through committee unanimously, sailed through fiscal review unanimously, sailed through rules and unanimously, sailed to the House almost unanimously. Well, that's another topic. You can talk to me one-on-one if you want. But then it got over to the Senate. We passed it over there, sailed through their committee unanimously. And then, of course, that's where some things came up. It was other bills that were blocking things. It was ready to go. All the floor leader had to do was call it up, but end of year came and everything died. It will go through next year. We have a governor that is just passionate about families. And I know we're going to get it through. It'll go through quickly next year because we've already blazed the trail. The path has been mowed. It's we've got ruts in this path now. We know the avenues we need to go, and we'll get it through. This is just a way. This is a kid bill. This is getting kids as the winner.
Yeah, and you've done a great job. And yeah, I think, like you said, I'm convinced next year it's going to sail. But that's another reason too, guys, not to plug the class and the program that I have, but that's why I do that legislative training and the leadership development program. Is passing legislation doesn't always just have to do with your bill. It's understanding the culture of what's going on other bills and how that feeds into the mix. So this fathership bill that Jamie sponsored, it was just other things going on in the mix. But you do need to understand that when you're working on bills. So that's another plug. Like I said, I'm going to be doing another training class that starts, it's like July 18th or something like that. But I encourage you to get involved with that. But yeah, Jamie's done just a great job. And we did meet with the governor's office, and they are very, very receptive to it. And we may be able to get some other things that we'll talk about later, that potentially trying to get the governor's office to actually have a commission on fatherhood issues that we can talk about. So we had a great, and like you said, Governor Kehoe is great to work with. Very, very open door policy. So yeah, I think you've done a great job in Missouri. So I appreciate you filling in the little gap here.
My pleasure. If you need anything at all, you give me a holler today. I'm here for you.
Yeah, cool. And then we'll see you back at 7 o'clock for sure.
And I'll work on the video settings.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Have a great day.
Yeah, guys, he has just been great to work with. And that's what you want. You want that relationship, the friendship built with legislators. So as I said, not to overly push the class and everything, but I really do sincerely want to, because I am going to be starting a class. I do a class. It's 4 Mondays and 3 Wednesday nights. And I go through step by step. It's a full immersion of what do you do in a state to get the bill passed. There's a lot of people that they don't understand the difference between the House and the Senate. There is a distinct difference in the culture of a House and a Senate, unless Nebraska is the only one that has a unicam. But the other 49 states, you need to know the culture before you just go ramping into a Senate or a House. Very different culture. You need to have some ideas of how do you express yourself in a 3-minute elevator pitch to a legislator. Most legislators won't have 30 minutes to spend with you. And even if they did, you don't want to take the 30 minutes for most time, because you win the battle, but you lose the war. You get one meeting, but they don't want a follow-up meeting. I don't want one meeting. I want that open door where I can pop in for 5 minutes, 8 or 10 times throughout the session if I want to. So we're going to go through step by step, and we take you through what is a majority whip and why is that important for our issue? What's a floor leader? Why do you need to know their role? What's the Speaker of the House? How can you get the Speaker to assign your bill to a favorable committee instead of the judiciary? It's not automatic that they have to assign it to judiciary, where most of our bills get killed in most of the states. So we do have a class. There's going to be an early bird registration. If you go to that stlmarkludwig.com, you can get in. There's an early bird registration that you're going to get a substantial discount. I think it's a third of the price if you register by July 15th. But I intentionally keep the class very small because I want the relationships. I want quality, not quantity in the class. We have some homework to do. I mean, it's a full immersion. So if you're wanting to get involved in a state, but you don't know what to do, I'm going to take you step by step. And if you think you know what to do, that's where I really need people. So many times we have people that get involved. They go to a state capitol on their own 4 or 5 times, and they start doing things wrong, but they had nobody to train them. So they keep doing things wrong. So we're going to have to unlearn some things for you during that class. Anyways, I do want to go ahead and start introducing the next video. Ed Bartlett, who is the head of DAVIA, which DAVIA, the Domestic Abuse and Violence International Alliance. And Ed has a call that I'm on every, at least once a month. I forget which call that is. I'm on 4 calls a month with Ed. He is just a great leader on gender equality, especially when it comes to violence. People always picture domestic violence is a female issue. No, it affects men just as much. So let me go ahead and, if Brian's ready, to go ahead and cue the video for Ed Bartlett. And then after that, we're going to bring up Nicole Anderson from Parental Alienation Resource.
Good day. My name is Edward Bartlett. I'm the president of the Domestic Abuse and Violence International Alliance. It's good to be here with this program among such erudite individuals from around the country and I believe internationally. My presentation today is about domestic violence, specifically domestic violence perpetrated by women. Reports about female perpetrated domestic violence are increasingly seen in media reports. Just last week, People magazine revealed a nefarious plot by a group of fifth grade girls in Sunrise, Arizona, after one of them broke up with her girlfriend. And that picture you see there, that's the school where they attended in Sunrise, Arizona. The girls schemed that one girl would bring the knife, one would forge a suicide note for the ex-boyfriend, one would act as the lookout, and the fourth would actually lure the boy into a school bathroom to, quote, just end him. Well, the police found out about this when the police actually began to ask some questions to the girls the next day. One of the girls actually failed to show any regret or remorse. Uh, in fact, she reportedly would smile and laugh while making excuses for her actions. Such cases of female perpetrated domestic violence are not unique. According to the NIS survey of the Centers for Disease Control, NIS stands for National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey. You can see the cover of one of the reports below here. According to the CDC report, there are actually more male victims of domestic violence each year than female victims. I provided the link if you want to see it for yourself. The actual number of male victims of, we're talking about physical domestic violence, the actual number of male victims each year is 6.5 million. Compare that to the number of female victims, 5.6 million. That's obviously a pretty substantial differential in the number of victims. It turns out that women are not only the perpetrators of domestic violence in general, they're perpetrators of domestic homicides in particular. My organization has actually compiled a listing of 18 female perpetrated domestic homicides that were reported between January 1st and April 30th of this year. Again, the link for that report is on the screen. And so I've done a screenshot of the top of that. Many of these titles from this compilation actually reveal premeditation. These are not like sort of, just, based on anger or whatever. These were premeditated. One of these incidents was titled, "She was forced to share custody of their daughter, so she had someone kill her ex in front of the girl." Again, there's the link. It was in People magazine. There's a photograph of the woman. Her name was Rachel Moore, who arranged this particular incident. There's a federal office in the United States called the Office for Violence Against Women. That office is at the Department of Justice. That office claims that domestic violence includes, quote, any behaviors that intimidate, manipulate, humiliate, isolate, frighten, terrorize, coerce, threaten, blame, hurt, injure, or wound someone. The link is there. With such broad definitions, the reality is nearly every person in the United States can now make a claim to be a victim of abuse without needing to provide any hard evidence. So think about it. Such broad definitions open the door for false allegations. According to a national representative survey done in 2023 that we conducted, we contracted with a group called YouGov. 10% of American adults, that's about 26 million persons, report that they have been falsely accused of domestic violence, sexual assault, or child abuse. And that graph there, actually, the survey was done in 8 countries, and the United States is the third country here. The number of, or the percentage of male victims is in blue. The percentage of female victims of false allegations is shown in green. About 1/3, according to the survey, 1/3 of the false allegations were made as part of a child custody dispute, which is concerning and revealing. False allegations can have devastating consequences. False allegations often harm the reputation and career of the accused, and we know from the Innocent Project that they are a leading cause of actual wrongful convictions. Wielded in child alienation cases, false allegations have been described as a, quote, weapon of destruction in a family. Victims of false allegations, though, are now increasingly fighting back. I assume everybody listening to this presentation recalls the Johnny Depp trial 2022 against Amber Heard. He won that trial, of course. Um, and one of the things that came out in that trial was here's the picture of Johnny Depp himself in a emergency room in Australia. If you look closely, his right middle finger has been severed. That was a result of a domestic violence incident that he had. So in June of this year, Trevor Bauer was awarded nearly $310,000 against a woman who falsely accused him of sexual assault. So obviously that's a very recent report of a well-known American athlete. The criminal justice system needs to take female perpetrator domestic violence just as seriously as male perpetrated abuse. Lawmakers need to ensure that domestic violence laws utilize gender neutral language, not just talk about male perpetrators and female victims. Second, programs need to rely on CDC 12-month statistics, not use these lifetime numbers that are unreliable because they're subject to recall biases. Third, services need to be made as widely available to male victims as female victims. And finally, prosecutors need to pursue allegations of female initiated violence with the same vigor as they do in cases of alleged male perpetrated violence. Bottom line, society can no longer allow to grant female perpetrators the quote chivalry treatment for their serious crimes. Thank you very much. Perpetrators the quote chivalry treatment for their serious crimes. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Yeah, Ed is just a great international leader that really does help out quite a bit. Oops, let me turn on my volume on the TV. I was watching it on my TV while I was sitting there. Anyways, kind of excited. The next person who's going to talk and then introduce the next few videos that we have, Nicole, kind of new to the community, but boy, she is great to work with. If you saw all the graphics, aside from the two that I did, you will know that I did them. Okay, they look ridiculous. And Nicole volunteered and came out. She just has a great talent for creating graphics. So all the cool looking video or graphics that you saw, the memes were done by Nicole. Always willing to help. I love watching her page. If you haven't liked and followed her page, please do so. The Parental Alienation Resource page that she has on Facebook. But Nicole, glad to have you with us. Glad I got to meet you down in Naples this year when I was down there. But,
yes, thank you.
But yeah, I'm going to let you take it from here. And Brian, if you put me off stage. And but thanks so much, Nicole. We sure appreciate you. And make sure that you put any links to your website or your pages too, that people can contact you.
Sure. Well, thank you. Well, like you said, I am just simply a marketer who has found myself in the position that most of you have found yourself in lately as well. So I did what I was told. I did an 8-minute speech, so just bear with me. So it says, I'm Nicole Anderson, founder of Parental Alienation Resource. I didn't come here as a lawyer or a therapist or a politician. I came here as a mother who believed the family court system was built to protect children. I was wrong. What I discovered in Charleston, South Carolina, and what so many of you have told me you have discovered across the country is this: family court doesn't protect children, it protects itself. There's been a lot of talk about how equal shared parenting helps deter parental alienation. But today I want to go deeper because equal shared parenting doesn't just protect children from losing a parent, it disrupts the very system that profits from that loss. And it makes it the single greatest threat to the survival of that system. According to the American Psychological Association, 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. The National Institute of Health reports 68% of first marriages involve a child within the first 3 years. And the average marriage that ends in divorce lasts 8. That means millions of children and families will be pulled into the family court system during the most vulnerable moments of their lives. And when that moment comes, they deserve the clearest, most constitutional, most child-centered path forward. That path is equal shared parenting. Right now, in most states, there's no formula for custody. A full-time stay-at-home parent can be reduced to 2 weekends a month. A parent with fewer resources can be forced to settle for even less, just to avoid going bankrupt. There's no algorithm, no enforced best interest standard, no constitutional check of how much a parent the court decides you're allowed to be. Don't think this wasn't by design, because when outcomes are vague, rulings are unpredictable, and parents are desperate, someone profits. Family court isn't just emotionally draining, it's financially engineered to break you. You're told to hire a lawyer at $300 plus an hour for years. Hire a guardian at Litem, $75,000 plus. Pay for your custody evaluations and psychological testings. Pay for your child's therapy, pay for your therapy. Pay for supervised visits even when no supervision was needed before. And sometimes pay for the other parent's legal fees too. You're told to prove you're the better parent while paying for every professional who gets to decide whether you are or you're not. And if your therapist doesn't echo the court's narrative, you will be forced to start over with someone new, of course, at your expense. And even after all of that, one of you will likely end up with just 4 days a month. This isn't protection. This isn't the child's best interest. This is court-sponsored coercion where the longer the conflict drags on, the more professionals get paid. The court counts on you doing this at least twice. They hand out final orders knowing full well the parent with the most control is often the one who won't follow them. No one outside of the court will enforce them, so they wait. They wait for the targeted parent to come crawling back, fighting for scraps, and when you do, they welcome you to round 2. Because that's how the cycle survives. When shared parenting is denied, one parent can be erased, not because they're unfit, but because they're inconvenient. And the harder they fight, the more they lose. For the parent with the power, they become the gatekeeper, the narrator, the judge. They decide what the child hears, says, and believes. They decide if the other parent exists at all. For the parent without power, they get 4 days a month, if that. Every birthday, every phone call, every hug must be approved. And when they advocate, they're labeled hostile, controlling, or mentally unstable. Often the child is told that their other parent needs to help while they sit and wait for their parent to become perfect before they're allowed to continue their relationship with them. And for the child, they learn love is conditional, that family can be deleted by paperwork, that speaking the truth and imperfection can cost them love. So they adapt. They stop talking about the erased parent. They hide their joy after visits. They live a double life performing for peace. But somewhere along the way, they were made to believe it was their fault. This isn't co-parenting. This is psychological warfare funded by court orders. Let's be clear, shared parenting doesn't split a child in half. It gives them back their whole identity. When kids have meaningful access to both parents, they experience fewer behavioral and emotional issues. They're less likely to struggle with anxiety, depression, and or identity confusion. They perform better in school. They feel safe and secure in both homes. Shared parenting doesn't make parents equal in hours. It makes them equal in value. And it protects kids even in complicated situations. Even when one parent struggles emotionally, financially, or otherwise, shared parenting ensures the parent isn't erased because of it. Equal shared parenting minimizes confusion, it limits unnecessary litigation, and it removes the guesswork that the professionals often exploit for profit. When the path is clear, families are more likely to settle. When expectations are balanced, there's less room for manipulation. When both parents know their role, money-hungry professionals lose their power. Shared parenting keeps the focus on results, not revenue. It ends the cycle where one parent clings to scraps of time, the other controls the narrative, and the child is stuck in the middle. Parental rights are fundamental. In Troxville v. Granville, the Supreme Court affirmed parents have a liberty interest in the care and custody of their children. Shared parenting supports due process, equal protection, a child's right to know both parents. This isn't new. This is restoring what should have never been taken, and the system resists it because shared parenting removes their control. Don't think it doesn't affect you. Even if your children are grown, even if your child is the mother, 22 million parents, mothers and fathers are currently being alienated from their children, and too often the family court is just as responsible as the alienator. If you've ever held your grandchild in your arms, imagine being told you're not allowed to see them anymore, and no one has to explain why. Shared parenting protects families, not just parents. This isn't just about today's courtroom battles. It's about our children, our grandchildren, and the generations that follow. If we don't act now, we are giving the system more families to destroy later. So fight for equal shared parenting. Speak, organize, vote, educate. For those already caught in the system, I created an AI to help you identify professional misconduct, gather evidence, and share your story. You can also tell it you want to report the professionals taking advantage of you in your case, and it will add their names to our nationwide database. You can find it on ChatGPT by searching Parental Alienation Resource. The system won't fix itself, but together we can expose it. Thank you. Oh, gosh. I'm just kidding. And coming up next, we have Representative Wendy Hausman from Missouri, Representative David Castile from Bob Onder from Missouri, Elizabeth McNeese with We the Parents, and Danica Dockery with Hope for Families. Thank you.
Hi, this is Representative Wendy Hausman from St. Charles County here in Missouri. I just had lunch with Mark, and it was a great time. We got to talk a little bit more about Senate Bill 35. I was so happy to be a part of that. It is so important for families and to strengthen children and the future of our nation. So support, get it out there and go talk to your legislators. It is so important that they have a face and a name to those pieces of legislation that are so vital to our communities. I encourage you to just continue to do what you're doing and work hard because families are important in this country. And so I want to support that.
Hi, this is David Castile, State Representative in the 97th District, outside of Johnny's Hideout, which is located in my district. I'm a single father to a 10-year-old son and have been dealing with custody issues for the last 10 years. So I'm excited to help Mark and his coalition to help bring equal rights to parents across the country. I look forward to filing some legislation in the Missouri House of Representatives this coming session to move the needle and to get some results. Thank you so much.
I'd like to welcome you to your event. Yours is a great organization. Mark and his group in Missouri are doing a great job. Shared parenting is really very important, and the bill's making big progress. It's important that both parents be involved in their children's upbringing for their good and for the good of our society. So again, have a great meeting and God bless.
Hi there, I'm Elizabeth McNeese and I'm coming to you from Florida, currently on vacation, but I'm actually based out of the Columbus, Ohio area. I've been an advocate for the last 5 years with National Parents Organization. I've been working with AFESP and a lot of shared parenting organizations. I also produced the We the Parents movie that's out on YouTube now, if you want to go watch that for free. I've been trying to heavily sway and influence legislation in our state to create a presumption of equal shared parenting, amongst other things. Equal shared parenting, I think, is a basic step in the right direction that lawmakers can make, but there's a lot of things wrong with family courts. So I've been trying to address a lot of those different issues as well. But I've been working at the State House in Ohio for 5 years now. 5 years ago, we actually were able to be connected with legislators who were interested in introducing an equal shared parenting bill, and we successfully got it introduced, and it was a bipartisan effort. We had, a Democrat, and we had a Republican, and we had 59 additional co-sponsors. So 61 out of the 99 representatives at the time came on board right out of the gate with our equal presumption bill. And that was when we learned very quickly that things don't work the way we thought they did. it doesn't matter necessarily how many people support you in the beginning. Really, it comes down to what legislators are willing to do and how hard they're willing to push for a bill. So something that if you're new to advocacy or you've been working for a while and you want to, maybe identify some areas that you can improve on, I would say make sure you're finding legislators who are really willing to go to the bat, because it all sounds common sense, because it is common sense that children need both parents and that equal shared parenting is what's generally best for kids. So it's a no-brainer. But the opposition that we have for implementing these types of change is very, very powerful. And I think we see it across the board in all states. It tends to be the same opponents. You have the Bar Association and you have the judges, typically, who will come out very strong in opposition. Sometimes some domestic violence groups do as well. It just depends on the language of the bill and how they're connected to the Bar Association and the judges, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Also, how relationships really impact what happens. So we learned who our opponents were very quickly, and we felt as citizens we could easily say, look, we have already polled Ohioans. Ohioans want this. We have a lot of co-sponsors. This is common sense. And it doesn't matter that the judges and attorneys don't like it, because they're the ones who benefit from the current system, so they should have no say. We felt like that was all common sense. But we learned, in Ohio especially, that legislators really lean on the bar and they lean on the judges for their expertise, and they want to know what their judges think in their districts. They want to know where the Bar Association stands on these issues, even though everyone knows they benefit from the current system. So right off the bat, I would say if you're getting into advocacy or you want to make some changes, identify the legislators who are favorable, but who will also be willing to stand up and fight the opponents, because they have very deep pockets. I mean, the Bar Association and the judges in Ohio, the Ohio Judicial Conference, they have staff lobbyists. I mean, they full-time lobbyists who walk the State House and connect with our legislators, and they stay on them about bills. They pass them in the halls constantly, and they stop them and say, hey, what about this bill? You really should oppose that bill, or you should not be supporting that bill, and they lean on who they hear from the most. And unfortunately, we the people don't have a lot of people there on our behalf. The lobbyists are there paid to represent organizations. There are no lobbyists for the people. So know your opponent and know how they're connected to the legislators in your state. In our state, the leadership in both chambers, in the Senate and the House of Representatives, even now with this new General Assembly, they're bar members, and they are very loyal to the Bar Association and to the Ohio Judicial Conference. That's problematic for those of us who are trying to implement drastic change that would directly impact their line of work. So make sure you go through, you can, if your judges are elected, you can look through their campaigns, the campaign finances, and find out where their donations are coming from. And you'll find that most judges' donations come from attorneys, and the Bar Association and their members also contribute heavily to legislators. So you want to be aware of where the money is flowing, because you'll want to know who is truly going to be favorable for what we're trying to do and who will likely sabotage it on behalf of the organizations that they represent and that they are trying to advocate for. I think it's easy to get bogged down when you do have a bill on that bill. But one thing we learned the hard way is sometimes your opponents really, really don't like what you're doing, and they will create a counter bill. And that's what happened to us here in Ohio. So we came out of the gate with tons of support, tons of co-sponsors. We had the polling on our side. We had other states to point to where they've done this successfully, such as Arkansas. Kentucky is a neighbor of ours. Since then, West Virginia, you have Missouri. So we had other states over the years to point to say, hey, there's other states already done it. Even our neighbor, has done it. So we were very, I would say, almost cocky. And that was a mistake, because we totally underestimated the opponents. So the judges, what they did is they actually sat down and they wrote a bill of their own. Their bill is 400 pages long, And it is the complete opposite of what we are trying to do with any sort of court reform that would favor equal shared parenting, that would favor both parents when they're fit, willing, and able to be participating in the child's life. They use a lot of the lingo in their testimonies to support their bill. That is the lingo that we use. They're literally taking talking points from things in our old bill and saying that their bill does that, and it's completely false. So they've created a bill completely in opposition to our bill to counter our bill. They got it introduced by two family law attorneys, both in leadership positions in the Senate. It's called Senate Bill 174, if you want to look it up. And then in their testimonies, they completely mislead the legislators on what's actually in there. So again, it goes back to knowing and understanding the opposition and understanding the tactics they're going to use so you're not blindsided. Because if you're so focused on your one bill, you might completely miss opponent bills that are coming in to sabotage your efforts. And theirs is a big one, but it could be a small one. There's Caden's Law, there's a lot of other small bills that are trying to be squeezed in that directly also go against what we're trying to do. So again, it's been 5 years since I've been working in Ohio. I've created a lot of relationships. Some of them not so great, I'll be honest. There's some legislators who just don't want to talk to me. And that's because they're very loyal to the bar, and my reputation has preceded me. So in that situation, all I can do is know that I have done everything I can to be honest and open and respectful. We always invited opposition into our interested parties meetings. During our bill, they've never once done that with their bill. They've never returned that favor. But we've always done things the right way, I would say, trying to come to the table, trying to, appease them, in ways, even compromising some language in our bill just to get them to back off. It never worked. They never changed their mind, and they dug their heels in further. So I would say always take the high road if you can. Keep those relationships and keep going, because the next General Assembly, builds on the one before. So we may not have a bill right now. Now we're focused on defeating the opponent bill. But next GA, it'll be a whole new leadership. We'll have new people in the State House, and we'll go again. So relationships, knowing your opponents, taking the high road, and being really smart about the approach that you use and not being distracted, because there's lots of ways that the opponents can sabotage what we're trying to do. So I don't know if that's going to be helpful for anyone. I hope it is. But you can always reach out to me on social media if you have any further questions or want any advice. I'm in this for the long haul, so I'm just thrilled to be part of today, and I hope you guys will enjoy all the other speakers.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danica Joan Dockery, and it's such an honor to be part of this year's Equal Shared Parenting Conference. 25 years ago, I was blindsided by a custody battle that would forever change the course of my life. I was young, I was a mother, I was suddenly thrust into a system I didn't understand and absolutely wasn't prepared for. No one around me really had the words to describe what I was going through. The behaviors I was seeing in my children and their father, the manipulation, the hostility, the fear, it was confusing and painful. Then I discovered a book that gave me language for what was happening. It was Divorce Poison by Dr. Richard Warshak. I read it in 2002, and it changed everything. It helped me realize that what I was experiencing had a name: parental alienation, a term coined by Dr. Richard Gardner in the 1980s. Finally, I wasn't alone, I wasn't crazy, and that validation was a turning point for me. Now, fast forward 25 years, my 5 sons are grown. Some of them have children of their own. And I've spent the last 2 decades walking alongside families going through the same heartbreak I once faced. I started with in-person classrooms, teaching court-ordered parenting and family stabilization courses. I became a certified family mediator. I worked with parents to create parenting plans, manage anger, and find a path forward. But I also realized that what I wished I had all those years ago wasn't just information. I needed a guide. I needed someone to tell me I could survive this, and that my children would too. I needed someone who had walked through the fire and come out wiser, not bitter, so that's who I've chosen to become. Today I serve families through Kids Need Both Inc., the nonprofit I founded to support parents through conflict and empower them to create healthy, connected relationships with their children. I co-created hopeforfamilies.net, a collaborative platform that offers accessible, court-approved online courses because I believe no parent should be denied help just because they can't afford a high-priced attorney. But more recently, I've shifted my focus, not away from parents, but toward the people who serve them, toward you, the advocates, professionals, and change makers who are fighting for equal shared parenting, not just as a legal reform, but as a cultural shift. One of my proudest projects is our collaborative book series, starting with Building Bridges of Hope, Overcoming Trauma in the Family Court System. This anthology brings together voices from across the spectrum, survivors, mental health professionals, attorneys, child advocates, mediators. It includes contributors like Ginger Gentile, John Hamill, Dr. Elias Price Tobler, Mark Ledwig, yes, our Mark Ledwig, and many more. But for me, this book is more than a publication. It's a ministry. It ministers to the reader who may be in the thick of a custody battle, searching for guidance and grasping for hope. And it ministers to the author, the one who has walked through the suffering and finally has a chance to give that pain a purpose. I guide every contributor to ensure that their story doesn't just become a purge of emotion, but a light for someone else. Every chapter must offer hope, resilience, and healing, because the people reading it are often hanging on by a thread. Alongside this work, I created the Hope for Families Strategic Partnership Alliance. We meet regularly, organizations and leaders from all over the country and the world, each doing something powerful in their own communities. We spotlight each other's projects, share announcements, and make requests. And sometimes a magical spark of collaboration ignites. That's when I know we're doing something right. You see, I'm a possibility igniter. I build bridges between people, between stories, between disciplines, and I believe that together we are the change we've been waiting for. So now I'd like to leave you with this. If you're a professional, an advocate, or a survivor ready to turn your story into a beacon for someone else, I invite you to join our mission. Join the Strategic Partnership Alliance. Contribute to a future book. Partner with us. Let's create more spaces where families feel seen, supported, and strengthened. Equal shared parenting isn't just about laws, it's about relationships, healing, community, and hope. Let's build that together. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emma Johnson, and for those of you who don't know me, I am the founder of Moms for Equal Parenting. And last year I wrote a book on advocating for equal parenting presumptions with my book, The 50-50 Solution. Mark told me that I could say that. First, I want to give a big shout out to Mark Ludwig and all the incredible work that he's doing on behalf of the movement, on behalf of families and their parents and our culture overall. Very briefly, I do want to share with you how I came to this work because it's really, I think, it helped me be very effective in being an advocate for equal parenting. I'm a child of divorce. I came to my own divorce with all of the feminist progressive assumptions that moms should have the kids primarily, dad should pay child support, maybe even alimony, and that this was good for feminism and good for women and good for kids. Did not question it. That's what I'd always believed, and that is what I applied to my own family. I started blogging as a single mom and also living as a single mom and having incredible professional success, making money, and through life became the primary sole breadwinner in my family. I was also taking care of the kids, and I was becoming very resentful about that. I could see that my kid's dad was perfectly capable dad who could have more responsibility for the kids. And I was hearing this from all these women and men, all these stories. I had this really unique perspective where I was hearing for so many people all around the world because I was blogging as a single mom and getting all this data. Fast forward to today, over the last 7-8 years, I've been writing very passionately and I think prolifically and researching equal parenting. And I found that there was a dearth of messaging to women and to moms, and especially I still identify as a feminist and a registered Democrat. I think there's space. We need to be speaking to everybody, right? And if we're going to be effective, we have to be addressing all of the pain points and addressing them with kindness, with the science, with the research. And this is where I have really delved in and developed an expertise in talking to moms and women and what is good for them, rooted in the science. So some highlights. This is to my colleagues out there. This is all documented. Reach out to me individually. I have been developing some one-sheeters if you want to take it to your legislators, if you want to brush up yourself, maybe for one-on-one conversations you're having with your friends and your neighbors and helping spread the good word about equal parenting. But just some top-level highlights about when you're talking about this issue and what's good for women and moms. In this case, one, we know that moms do work. The vast majority of women in the United States and around the world do work for pay outside the home. And this is because they have to usually, they want to, and it is good for all families. There's a giant Harvard study that looked at families all around the world and found that when women work and earn outside the home, women, young women, their daughters grow, those daughters grow up to be more academically and professionally successful. Their sons grow up to be just as happy as the sons that are raised in families with at-home moms, and those sons do more work at home, right? They do more caregiving work, whether it's for younger siblings or older family members in the home. So basically what happens when women work outside the home for pay, we know that there's more equality in the public sphere, in the working world, and there's more equality at home. This is something that resonates with a lot of women and moms when we're talking about equal parenting to women and people concerned about women. We all know that one of the biggest struggles that we are addressing is, what does equal parenting mean for violence, family violence, whether it's domestic violence, child abuse. And thankfully, we have wonderful research, rigorous research, both in the United States and in Europe. Spain is a very excellent case study. They have some of their provinces, like our states here in the United States, some of them have equal parenting presumptions now for 5-6 years, and they are able to see that there is less domestic violence in those states. Less domestic violence in those states than there is in the states that have a presumption of duking it out, and the moms have a presumption of custody. Again, in the United States, we see the same thing happening in Kentucky. I mean, I have a visual chart. This is data from the state of Kentucky on Moms for Equal Parenting. Just reach out. We'll get you all the data if you need it. And again, since Kentucky has enacted their equal parenting presumption law in 2018, domestic violence filings have fallen. Substantiated domestic violence cases have also fallen. This is not just accusation, substantiated cases. Now let's talk about child abuse. Ohio, our good friends at National Parents Organization, hi Don Human, he looked at all this counties in the state of Ohio. Now in Ohio, each county can get together and decide what their presumptions are, their little micro jurisdictions. And the counties that are presumption of equal parenting, the majority of those cases are 50-50, had lower child abuse cases, again, substantiated child abuse cases. And the researchers surmise that that's because those moms, because again, moms are going to be the primary caregiver anywhere. The moms that had more equal parenting had more support, right? They had more support and were less likely to get stressed out and are harmful to their kids. I can identify with that as a mom, and whether you say it out loud or not, I bet you can too. Back to Spain, we're talking about earning. If we're concerned about gender pay gaps, we see in Spain that more the jurisdictions that had equal parenting presumptions, women worked and earned more than in the counties where they had presumed to be the primary caregiver. Now, there's another correlation we can tease out, which is when we do know other bodies of research find that when women have their own money, they have more power to leave relationships, right? Abusive, violent relationships. So I'd love to see more research on that, but we don't quite have the exact correlation there, but that could be that's another way we can talk about this in ways that this benefits women and moms. So I leave you with that. Again, I'm accessible if you're not finding the research and you just want to use it as your own in your own work. I have found that again, these messages delivered with kindness, with compassion. Women like me comes to this issue with a lot of cultural presumptions about what it means to be a mom, right? There's a lot of pressure on women to be primary caregivers, whether they're married or single or divorced. There is that. And I think if we reach women where they are, help them understand the science, understand what's good for them, and understand that everywhere in the country, we are barreling towards equal parenting presumption, and this is the future, and helping them be comfortable with it and get on board with it, everybody stands to win.
Oh, sorry about that. Operator error once again. Yeah, glad to have Emma on. Her book, by the way, guys, The 50/50 Solution. Just a great book that I highly encourage you to get. Okay, right now we do have rescheduled that we brought back. The guy, I'm just telling you, the Missouri bill, SB 35, would not have passed without the next guest I'm going to bring on. Literally the hardest working legislator in Missouri. I mean, if you ask anybody, they will tell you this guy is all over the state. Constantly involved. I do not know how he keeps up the pace he does. So, Brian, if we can go ahead and bring on Representative Jim Murphy, and then you already unmuted. So, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you squeezing us in. Oh, are you at Crown Center?
I am at Crown Center.
I was going to say, I thought I recognized that. Yeah, I'll go ahead and let you, because we only have a short time, so I don't want to take up your time, but anything that you want to share.
Mark, thanks for having me. One of the things we had talked about is it's one thing to get a bill passed, and we worked very hard on that. We worked for many years to do it. But the other thing we need to be very conscious of is that once you pass it, there are forces out there that are constantly trying to amend it, change it, and undo it. We found that to be the case in Missouri. It wasn't 1 year later that a liberal senator passed a bill out of the Senate that virtually gutted the entire bill, and I had to go back to work and kill that. And that's an ongoing process, and nobody can be confident that once you pass a shared parenting bill that's the end of it. Of course, there's always work to improve it, but there's also a lot of work that's just keeping the bill in place, because there are forces out there that do not want us to have that.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you, like I said, and I'm telling you, you worked your butt off on, and I don't know how much you want to share, but I'll tell you what, that Missouri bill would not have passed. It came down to the last day, and you stuck your neck out in front of the whole caucus for all of us. And like I said, I don't know how much we're allowed to share publicly, but I'll just tell everybody that bill would not have passed if it wasn't for Jim.
Well, that's what we do. If you're not there to fight hard for the things you believe in, you shouldn't be there at all. And we absolutely believe in your quest, and I shared it with you, and it was a great accomplishment. And again, what we need to do is just work every single day. I have a plaque in my office that says "Win every day," and if you're not working hard every single day, you don't win. But if you do work hard every single day, you will win, get things across the line. And that's what we did with this bill. And I'm gratified with the amount of people that have thanked me for it. But you don't thank me. You actually thank Mark Ludwig, because he's the one that works every single day.
Well, I guess we've only got a couple minutes, but I do want you to address, we've probably got a lot of people watching who are intimidated about speaking with a legislator. And so if you can address that, you usually like meeting with those type of people even more. They're constituents. So if you want to address and encourage people that, hey, reach out to your legislator.
Well, when somebody comes into my office and they're passionate about an issue, and they know their facts, and they have a story to tell, and normally it's a story that they tell that'll get to your heart, and that's the thing that'll move you. And there's no reason to be afraid of legislators. Frankly, we're all just people like everybody else. We stuck our neck out to become a legislator, but we're no different than everybody else. We have our passions, and we understand those passions. So if you go to a legislator's office, you're not going to be rejected. Now, if they don't like your subject, they're going to tell you, well, I disagree with you, and you move on. You find another legislator to go. But you should never be afraid. That's what they're there for. They're there to serve you, and there's absolutely no reason to be afraid of them.
Cool. Well, you definitely serve. Like I said, I mean, guys, I'll just tell you, Jim lives probably 3 miles from my house, and he is at chamber events, Boy Scout ribbon, ribbon cuttings, Boy Scout Court of Honors. I mean, he is everywhere and all over the state serving people in the Missouri. He is just we couldn't ask for anybody better. Unfortunately, he's somebody who's been through the family court system. So he was a very good advocate for us in getting that.
Well, here I am in Kansas City, the other side of the state, advocating for Israel this week. It's what you do. You advocate for those things you believe in, and that's why people that believe in advocating for a subject that they come to my office, I appreciate that. And you'll find that to be the case with most legislators. If you keep up, you're the guy who works and wins every day. You're the guy that's driving this. There's more than one plaque on that wall back there because of you, my friend. And I appreciate that also.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate you. And thanks so much for squeezing us into your schedule.
I'm sorry, it was a delay. The traffic got terrible on the way up here to Kansas City.
That's okay. Like I said, I was determined we were going to find somewhere to put you in the schedule.
I appreciate it, Mark. You have a great day.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your trip.
I will.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, guys, I'll tell you what, I get a chance to see him on a regular basis, and just a neat guy. Okay, coming up, we've got some pre-recorded videos. The first one coming up, I think I had mentioned Don Hubin from NPO, which is a great organization. Every once in a while, people have tried to get us into competition. Guys, we are not in competition. I'll tell you what, NPO has been a leading voice for the shared parenting community for a lot longer than I've been around. It's been over 20 years, maybe even 25 years, and they are great to work with. Don and I talk regularly, at least a couple times a month. I have literally nothing bad to say about him at all. Great to work with. He's actually on a plane. I think literally as we speak, he's on a plane to Africa right now. So he did a pre-recorded video with Warren Farrell. Some of you know, if you haven't got it yet, the boy crisis. Warren is one that I'm teaming up with. Warren has been wanting to get a White House counsel for boys and men for years. It just so happens I have 12 contacts now at the White House, 3 of whom the doors are pretty good for us getting one of these type of issues in front of the president. So I may actually be bringing Warren and Don both with me, along with Ron, to some future visits to the White House. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and interview, and I think we're doing a stream of them, if I remember correct. But there's going to be an interview of Don and Warren that is going to be, it'll knock your socks off. And like I said, after today, don't panic. You'll be able to rewatch it. Brian Lee, when he gets a chance, we're going to edit and splice these videos so you'll be able to watch the individual things without having to sit for 6 hours and watch a video. After that, we have Matt Hale. And I'll tell you what, Matt, once again, I can't say enough about this guy. I'll tell you what, I get a lot of credit and recognition, but I'll tell you what, Matt was the one who passed the first bill in the country. It wasn't me, okay? It was Matt, and he deserved it. He worked his butt off in Kentucky and had a genius strategy. So Matt Hale is going to be coming up, who led the Kentucky charge. Then we're going to have Senator Tom Pischke from South Dakota, a great warrior for us. Then Taylor A. Jones, a newcomer to the shared parenting community, and I'm so proud of her. She articulates the message of what was it like for a girl to grow up alienated from her father, to find out the truth later on and realize all the memories that she missed with her dad. So really proud of Taylor. Then we're going to have Lindsay Gurley with TFRM, the Father's Rights Movement, the largest footprint in social media for our cause. Most of us got our start with TFRM, and I've been proud to partner with them for years. I do regular Facebook Lives on TFRM, but Lindsay is on their board of directors and one of the main people that helps monitor and keep that site running. So really looking forward to having Lindsay on. And then Carl Roberts with Colorado Resilience. And Carl's another one that, man, he will serve and give. And I mean, just anything he can do to help the entire community, he does. Now, he's in a state that he's doing more on a more defense in his state than offense, but you need the defense too, and he's doing a great job. So at this point, we're going to hand it off to some of the videos that Brian has put together, leading off with Dr. Warren Farrell and Don Hubin. And welcome back, everybody. I'm excited about this next guest. I've gotten to know him very well over the last year and a half or 2 years, and I tell you what, I am so impressed every chance we talk, and we talk pretty often, actually, several times a month. But Representative Jamie Flick from Pennsylvania is probably, I believe, and I'm not just saying this because he's here and he didn't pay me to say this, but I believe one of the best legislative reps that we have in the whole country. He has a passion for this. So, Representative Flick, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. Great to see you again.
Yeah, I guess before we get started, for people who don't know your background and why you I was just wondering, I was like, well, maybe I missed something here. Once again, it's probably my fault, guys. Like I said, it takes a while, but small glitches like this. But I think we're going to switch. There's a different set of videos that Brian's going to be in the middle of, and I'll kill time. And just go ahead and cut me off whenever you're ready, Brian. But because we did a couple of sets of videos. So you will see Representative Jamie Flick later on today. But we're going to switch around and get the Don Hubin one up. But I appreciate you, Brian. Like I said, I would not have been able to even remotely pull this off. So I appreciate all your hard work on this. Okay. Yeah, like I say, just go ahead and cut me off whenever you're ready. But once again, guys, I really appreciate Brian, all his work. And then, like I said, the last hour is going to be an action plan of what are we going to do with this. So please make sure that you tune in at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, we're going to roll out the game plan of how you can be involved in your state. Next year, we are going to have literally every single state, all 50 states, we're going to have teams involved working on multiple pieces of legislation, both offensive, defense. And I'm really putting together a national team to help us out with the White House ins that we have, HHS, and members of Congress. And we need people in every congressional district across the entire United States for that. So please make sure that you guys tune in to that 7 o'clock. And did I kill enough time for you to? If not, guys, if you're wanting to get involved, shoot me an email to starnetmark@yahoo.com and put shared parenting in your state in all caps in the subject line, because I'm going to be creating a database of volunteers all across the country. Okay, so we're up and running. So now we'll go ahead and roll the video with Dr. Warren Farrell and Don Hubin.
Hi, I'm Don Hubin, Chair of National Parents Organization. I've been involved in the effort to establish presumptions of equal shared parenting for about 30 years now. I'd like to thank Mark Ledwig for the opportunity to participate in this shared parenting virtual conference. It's my pleasure now to introduce Warren Farrell, an author whose work I have followed and admired for decades. Because our time is limited, I'll limit this introduction to a very brief period, and then therefore not do justice to Warren's accomplishments. While Warren's academic training was in political science, his interests are much broader than that. He regularly writes on issues touching on psychology, sociology, and history, among other areas. He has long focused on issues of gender equality, and more recently has become one of the leading advocates for boys and men with, I'll say, penetrating and sophisticated analyses of the problems confronting them and the solutions to those problems. His latest book, The Boy Crisis, is an invaluable contribution to our understanding of the problems that boys are facing and how we should address those problems. So Warren, welcome, and it's great to see you.
It's always good to see you, Don.
So some people may not know that you began your public work, your published works and so forth, in the feminist movement. You were, I think, 3 times elected to the National Board of the National Organization for Women. What caused you to shift your focus more towards boys and fathers?
Yes, just so it's not exaggerated, it's the New York City board that I was elected to 3 times. But let's see, I began to hear, first of all, I read, I sort of read some reports in the early 1970s that as among the people that had been divorced, where there was a lack of father involvement, that those children were not doing as well. And I brought up that issue to the board of now in New York City. And they said, well, gee, Warren, this is not a woman's issue. Women's issues are to make sure that we give women the option of being with the children full time or not. We're going to lose membership if we start talking about the importance of fathers being involved equally. And I got the hint that, since most of my speaking engagements and about 90% of my income came from feminist sources, that if I continued opening my mouth about this, it would not be that productive economically. And it wasn't very productive economically. I lost a few $1 million by speaking up about these issues.
Well, I'm sorry for that transition period you went through, but I'm very glad for where you are now because you're such an important voice in this. Your book, The Boy Crisis, has raised awareness about the problems confronting boys. I think there is growing awareness, though you were one of the early writers on this topic. How do you think of the boy crisis, and why is it something that should be concerned to all of us and not just parents of boys?
When I did the research on the boy crisis, I was shocked to see that it out of school high school to a much greater degree. They are much more likely to commit suicide than girls. When boys and girls are age 9, they commit suicide about equally and rarely. But by the age of the early 20s, boys commit suicide almost 5 times as much as girls. And I started seeing that the biggest predictor, for example, of a boy committing suicide was a lack of father involvement. I also began to see that it was the biggest predictor of joining a gang, of being able to, being seduced by drug dealers to deal drugs. It was also a very big predictor of somebody addicted to pornography or alcohol or dying for drug overdose. And so I really, and then I read the Moynihan Report and saw that even in 1965, when the Moynihan Report came out, that it was already showing that the problem for inner city violence was not blacks per se. It was only that 25% of the black community in which there was a lack of father involvement. And now among Caucasian children, that figure is not 25%, but 32%. And among blacks, it's over 70%.
Wow. So, shifting slightly, we often hear the phrase toxic masculinity these days. Some people seem to use it as if it's a redundant phrase. I'm wondering how you think that phrase hits boys these days and how they react to that.
Boys react very negatively to toxic masculinity, but I want to be clear, there is such a thing as toxic masculinity because when boys, let's say you were your job was to be disposable in the next war. Well, in order to be disposable, you had to make sure that you didn't express any feelings in boot camp because the squeaky wheels do not allow the war machine to run effectively. And your job is not to live. Your job is to be willing to die, kill and be killed for your country. And so, in order to do that, you have to repress your feelings, not express your feelings. And repressing your feelings systematically is toxic. However, that toxic masculinity did not come from male privilege. It came from male response confused. We thought that that men were part of the patriarchy. They had power, but we didn't have power. We didn't have power. We were fulfilling an obligation. We gave up our passions to be a musician or an artist in order to do something that would earn money, that would give our children better opportunities than we had.
Well, thank you, and I'll use this opportunity to plug an earlier book of yours, The Myth of Male Power, that I read decades ago and found very illuminating, very interesting, and connected with the things you were just saying. So you've mentioned some of the problems that boys have, especially when they're deprived of a father in the home. That grows out of, I think you've talked about different ways in which, in general, moms tend to parent from the way dads tend to parent. A generalization, of course, but could you say a little bit about those different patterns of parenting and how fathers' ways of parenting can help children develop skills?
The parenting's on average, and as you said, this sometimes can be reversed. So, for example, studies show that at supervision, the children actually get to bed earlier than they do under mom's supervision. Now, this reveals something that's very important, which is the difference between boundary setting and boundary enforcement. Moms will set that earlier bedtime, but then let's say, for example, the child will come up to mom and say, "Oh, mom, I can't go to bed now. It's 8:30, I know, and that's the bedtime, but I haven't finished my homework yet. You don't want me to go to school without doing my homework, do you, mom?" And mom goes, "Well, I did tell you to get off the phone or off the video game, an hour ago, and that would have given you time to do homework. But yes, you're right. I don't want to go to school without you doing your homework. So, okay, go ahead, do your homework." Dad, the child comes up to dad and says the same thing. And usually the first time around, the dad gives the same type of warning. But the second time around, if the child has repeatedly stayed with the video game or the phone call conversation, dad will say something like, "I'm sorry, you knew what the price was. You're going to go to school without doing your homework." Now you can imagine the misunderstandings that happen if the father and the mother are divorced, and the father is, the mother picks up the father, let's say on Sunday, and says, "Did you do your homework?" And dad said, and the child says, "No, dad said I didn't have the time to do my homework, and that I should go to school without doing my homework." And from a mom's perspective, not knowing the background, she is feeling like, "My goodness, this is really, just is so typical of dad. He doesn't care," when in fact the dad does care, that dad cares about the child learning about enforcing boundaries and making sure that the child knows that there are consequences to pay when the boundaries, when the child just ignores the boundaries.
Great. You also talked about the difference in parenting styles affecting deferred gratification. Right. So this is of course connected with the infamous marshmallow test.
Yeah.
If a kid will delay eating one marshmallow on the promise that they'll get more later, and this turns out to be connected to success in life as well. So could you say a little bit about that?
Postponed gratification is the single biggest predictor of success or failure in life, and so and what dads tend to do is to do that postponed gratification, like I just gave as the example with the homework. This also comes in so many different forms. So, for example, dads are far more likely to roughhouse than moms are. And when dads and moms roughhouse, moms often fear that, from a mom's perspective, a dad roughhousing is like she just has one more child to monitor. And it feels really like the dad says, but the dad is usually likely to say some version of, "Okay, if you stick your elbow, let's say, in Jane's eye again and get Jane hurt like this, that's going to be the end of the roughhousing." And so now we have a situation where the child has to consider a number of things. He or she has to consider postponed gratification, that is, she or he wants to push the brother or sister aside to win in the roughhousing, but that's immediate gratification. Postponed gratification is, I'll lose my roughhousing treat if I do that. So I have to refrain from doing that and not hurt my brother and sister. So studies show a number of things. One is that when the father is doing the roughhousing like this, that the children actually begin to learn empathy. They learn empathy not because they're wonderful, sweet little children per se, but rather because they are required to think of their sister and brother's needs in order to get what they want, the roughhousing. And so the child is learning empathy, learning postponed gratification. The postponed gratification leads to the child being able to finish homework, be disciplined, to do well in sports, and therefore begin to get recognition and admiration from peers at work, from teachers, from his own parents. And girls are far more likely to be willing to date or want to date winners rather than losers. So everything in his life begins to change as a result of having that discipline and that postponed gratification that is more likely to come, but not exclusively comes from dad style parenting. And so the important thing is that dads need, let's not blame moms about this. Moms can't hear what dads don't say. And dads have to, do things like read about. And so I have a whole section in the Boy Crisis book on what these differences are and what the studies are that show the value of these differences, so dads can lovingly explain to moms what their contribution is, so moms and dads both know why children in divorce situations absolutely need to have equal shared parenting.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to mention another book of yours I very much admire, that Women Can't Hear What Men Don't Say. And if people aren't familiar with that, I recommend they take a look at that book. I think this is a good place to ask you a question I've been wanting to ask you. We're going to spend some time talking about parenting when parents are divorced or separated. But very often that is a second best solution. In many, maybe not all cases, it would be better if the parents stayed together. So what are the approaches to making marriages better and stronger so that divorce is less common?
About 30 years ago, I started doing couples communication workshops. And in those workshops, I advised that people be able to hear personal criticism without becoming defensive. Everybody agreed, but when they got home and the first criticism appeared, the defensiveness, that wisdom disappeared. And
There's a difference between agreeing in principle and
exactly, and especially in that, I ultimately understood that being defensive in response to criticism was biologically natural. When we were criticized, it was a potential enemy. Therefore, we got up our defenses. It was natural for survival, but it was just dysfunctional for love. So I had to set up a whole, what I call a caring and sharing practice to have people go through a series of mindsets that before they heard their partner's criticism, so they prepared themselves ultimately to associate their partner's criticism with an opportunity to be more deeply loved, by creating a safe space for their partner to be able to say whatever they wanted to say, and to have their mind cut off from self-listening or listening for one's own response that one was going to make. When couples learn to do that, I have found they almost always fall more deeply in love. And then they need to learn to, once they learn that, it's easier for them to learn a conflict-free zone for the rest of the week. So there's a whole series of skill sets that I found to be biologically unnatural, that people needed to train and learn so that they could have a much deeper love for each other, but also have be much better role models for better communication for their children. It's the greatest gift you can give each other, and therefore the greatest gift you can give your children.
Great. Well, in keeping with the focus of the conference, I want to turn now to separated parenting and shared parenting. You've described shared parenting as the best vaccine against the boy crisis. But before we get into some of that, let me just ask you this. You've talked about some things that parents must do, the 4 must-dos after divorce. What are those?
Well, in the many years of research I did for the boy crisis, I was able to boil down what I would call the 4 must-dos after divorce. Number 1, and the most important, is equal time with mother and father. The closer you get to equal time, 50-50, the better the children do on average. Second is that the parents live within about 20 minutes drive time from each other, so that when they don't, the children often resent the parent whose home they're going to because they have to give up their soccer practice or give up going to their best friend's birthday party or whatever. Third is that there's no bad mouthing the children can detect from mom to dad or dad to mom, either way. And that bad mouthing is not just words, but it's like looks of like, oh, I had a nice time at dad and mom's house last night. And the mom or dad rolls their eyes or interrupts or doesn't give them attention. This is bad mouthing in the broader context. And fourth, that the parents attend couples communication counseling about at least once a month. Not just emergency counseling. During emergency counseling, I found that oftentimes the time is short and parents are arguing their case. That only increases misunderstandings. But couples long-term counseling allows the parents to understand each other's best intent, and the differences between dad-style parenting and mom-style parenting often leave moms and dads not understanding the other parent's best intent.
So we don't have reliable national statistics on the prevalence of shared parenting. The Census Bureau doesn't ask the questions in the right way for us to determine that. And though there are some local studies, we really can't say what the prevalence of the practice is. But National Parents Organization has done reports on the child custody laws in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. We've done 3 of those reports, the NPO Shared Parenting Report Card. And we found that many states do not, the majority of states do not have laws that are really favorable to shared parenting. Now, we do now have a number of states that have very strongly pro-shared parenting laws. Arizona may have been the first. It doesn't have an explicit presumption of equal shared parenting, but it does have a requirement that the courts try to maximize the time the children have with each parent. But now we have 5 other states that have explicit presumptions of equal shared parenting. But the fact that the other states are not yet, I will say, because I think there's wind in the sails, and we're going to have many more states enacting this, given the research. But the fact that these other states have not done it yet is an indication that this practice is not as widely spread as it should be. It's not really the norm of separated parenting. So, what do you think is holding back shared parenting from becoming the norm, and what can we do to change that? Now, I'll add one more piece of information, also relevant to research that NPO has commissioned by an independent polling agency. We've done polling now in 26 states, and we find that the support for the practice of shared parenting and for a legal presumption of shared parenting is overwhelming. I mean, it ranges from like 82% to 94% in every state that we've tested. And that's very rare in today's politicized, polarized environment. And when we look at when we break down the data, we see that support cuts across every demographic divide. It cuts across income, race, ethnicity, educational levels, and importantly, it cuts across gender, political affiliation, and so forth. But still, the states are dragging their feet on creating legal presumptions of shared parenting. So I'm asking, what do you think is holding this back?
Well, 2 things. One is the American Bar Association, and number 2 is feminist movements. Feminists have made it very clear that just like when I brought this issue up to the board of NOW in New York City, their stance is if a woman wants to do we want women to be free to do what they want to do, which is women's rights over women's responsibilities for children, just like the father has the responsibility more than he has the rights. And so that's one part of it. The other part of it is that if I were to say what we need to do, is we need to do a little bit of what I asked Florida to do before they passed an equal shared parenting bill. And then also they contributed $70 million to talking about the importance of advertising to fathers and doing other sorts of promotion to both fathers to let fathers know how much they are needed. Men will do anything if we're told that we're needed. We die in war, we kill and we're and are allow ourselves to be killed because we're told we're needed. And we need to inform dads of how important they are. Second, we need to understand that this is not just a children's issue and it's not a father's issue. This is a woman's issue. When I was married for many years and then spent some years being divorced. And during that period of time, most women I dated were women with children. And every woman that I dated who had children used the same word, overwhelmed. She felt like she couldn't do her job with the children well, or couldn't do the job at work well, and and what can solve that problem? What can solve that problem is the equal involvement of the father. It gives the child, the mother, a chance to catch up with her work, to catch up with her friends, to have some leisure time, and to also have the satisfaction of raising a child much more effectively than she would if she did it alone. And the same type of thing with the dad raising his children alone. And so this needs to be marketed as a woman's issue because we all have a biological propensity to care for, love, and protect women more than we do have that propensity to care for, love, and protect men.
That is so important, Warren. And I'll mention that there's a recent book that I would recommend that people take a look at by Emma Johnson called The 50-50 Solution. Mm-hmm. And Emma Johnson is a feminist who is a very strong supporter of equal shared parenting, and she emphasizes the benefits that you've just been talking about shared parenting. She's done some research showing that women who are sharing parenting of their children with their ex on a 50-50 basis have greater self-satisfaction. They do better in their careers. They feel like they're doing a better job as a mother, because what we sometimes forget is that the flip side of dad being marginalized is mom is overburdened.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it is
one of those very few win-win solutions. The children win really clearly by a major amount on more than 50 different metrics. I mentioned some like the suicide and the being likely to graduate from high school, and but the failure to launch that occurs when a child doesn't have that postponed gratification and that discipline that dads tend on average to bring to the game. Now, what mother does not want her children to do well in all these areas, and what father doesn't, and what child doesn't want to do well? And so this is one of those few win-win-win solutions in life. And it is an example, unfortunately, about the power of politics over what the average person understands as common sense, or everybody agrees there should be equal parenting. But if they hear that the father is a narcissist or the father is terrible, they're quickly likely to move into, oh, okay, now I see why you're not wanting the father involved, as opposed to recognizing that in a divorce situation, there's usually only two people that see the other one as terrible, the mom and the dad.
Right. So I want to go back to something you were mentioning about, fathers realized how important they were. They would be doing this more. Because I've often thought that the way in which men in general, but especially fathers, are portrayed in sitcoms and in the media and advertising and so forth is terribly destructive. It leads to a presumption that fathers are incompetent or unconcerned with their children, and sometimes those messages get internalized too. That fathers and men might think, well, I don't really know how to do this. This isn't in my bailiwick. And so I think changing those stereotypical and demeaning portrayals of men, and from the bumbling Homer Simpson to the and not to criticize the Simpsons because it's a terrific show in many ways, but the bumbling father, and Everyone Loves Raymond, Canty. There are all these sitcoms and all these advertisements that portray men in that way, and I think this is something that it's so important in changing the culture of how we look at men and how we look at fathers.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, and it's more, it's subtler than most people understand. So let's say the Homer Simpsons and so on. Why do we mock men like that? In part because men can handle teasing. And it's so important for people to be able to handle teasing, men or women. To be able to be made fun of if you're at work, and for among men, the commerce of masculinity is the trading of wit-covered put-downs. Why do we do that? We do that to be able to have somebody be able to be resilient, to be able to handle, laugh at themselves. And dads are far more likely to do teasing of their children than moms are. And when they do tease the children, if the children are not used to being teased, what do the children do? Cry. When the children cry, that means mom thinks that dad isn't very sensitive to the children's needs, as opposed to dads being able to explain that a certain amount of teasing is one of the things that can go too far and be a problem, but a certain amount of teasing is very helpful for a child to be able to handle and to get it's like a fruit smoothie. The wheatgrass goes down a little bit better with some fruit, and the teasing is it creates some laughter and so on. And so the challenge for us as men is that so much of what we do, like the roughhousing, the teasing, the encouraging children to take some risks, but not too many risks, are oftentimes seen as, like the roughhousing, as just one more child to have to monitor. And we as men have to take responsibility for understanding as dads what the positive value is of those things that we do intuitively, like roughhousing, and how it leads to empathy and postponed gratification, as does the boundary enforcement versus boundary setting. And so we need to inform ourselves, as well as inform women and mothers, and again, make this a mother's issue.
Great. I'm actually told that we are running out of time. I'm sad to say, because I could talk with you for quite a long time about these issues. I do want to raise one point. You mentioned that feminists often oppose these presumptions of equal shared parenting. Of course, there was a time when Karen DeCrow was the president of NOW. She did not oppose this. But often the opposition to presumptions of shared parenting focuses on domestic violence or child maltreatment. And I will say that National Parents Organization has done some research on this, and we've also promulgated some research by some really terrific researchers around the world. And what we found is that incidences of domestic violence and child maltreatment actually go down when there are presumptions of equal shared parenting. They've gone down in Kentucky. They've gone down in places of Spain where they have these presumptions. But yet we are confronted with terrible anecdotal stories of some bad outcome. And I'm wondering if you have any ideas about how to combat this, other than to quietly and repeatedly present the data to people and hope that the data will eventually take hold.
We need to be much more vociferous about the data. There's now more than 300 studies that have been done all around the world, Africa, the United States, and English-speaking countries, which all show the same thing, including, and I want to credit feminists here, some of the people who are skeptics of the data showing that mothers, women and men hit each other about equally at every level of violence. A large number of the people who were skeptics about that data were women who were feminists, and they went out and they repeated the studies, and they found exactly the same thing, that men and women hit each other about equally at every level of violence. There's two exceptions to that rule, and that is one is in high school now. Younger females hit younger males much more frequently, 8 times as frequently as the other way around. And the killing data, if you want information about that, take a read of the Women Can't Hear What Men Don't Say, where I analyze the data about the fact that the killing of a partner is recorded by the FBI as a multiple offender killing, not as a woman killing a man or a man killing a woman.
So do you have just a parting word, maybe a word of hope about where we're going, just in a few seconds here?
Yes, because we do have almost every 85% or so of the American population on our side, we really need to remember what Florida learned was that when they asked people to support this issue in the legislature, 100% of the Republicans and 100% of the Democrats voted in the House of Representatives in Florida to devote that $70 million to educating both fathers and mothers as to why both parents are so important.
Excellent, Warren. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, and thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure talking with you, Don, and I'm really glad we had this
Hi, I'm
opportunity.
Matt Hale, Vice Chair of the National Parents Organization, and I'd like to talk for a few minutes about Kentucky's first in the country shared parenting presumption law, House Bill 528 in 2018, passed the House unanimous 81-2 and the Senate unanimously. It was so popular that when we did polling on it, it was favored by a factor of 6-1 by the people who were polled. And this is the first and only time so far that the National Parents Organization has pulled a shared parenting law that is not hypothetical, it's an actual law that's passed. So we were very excited about those results. But there are other results that are very exciting about all of this. One of them is that the governor of Kentucky, Matt Bevin at the time, he was very excited about signing the law. And at the ceremonial signing, he called it an honor to sign Kentucky's shared parenting bill. And we also saw him sign something else that was very fun. I asked him at the time to come up with to follow up on a little idea I had and proclaim the day that he signed the law. So Kentucky was the first to also have shared parenting day, April 26th. So that was another example of just how popular the law was. We also saw the re-election results of the lawmakers who voted for or against the bill. Again, it was very popular, so in the Senate, there wasn't anyone against it. But in the House, there was. But let's take a step back and talk about the sponsors. The sponsors of Kentucky's shared parenting law were re-elected at a rate of 100%. People who voted yes were re-elected at a 90% clip, and people that abstained were re-elected at an 80% clip. There were only 2 votes against Kentucky's shared parenting law, and one of them ran for election uncontested. The other one, Linda Belcher, had won previously by 37 points, and after voting against the shared parenting law, she lost by 20 points. So it was a 57-point swing. We've also seen domestic violence changes in Kentucky since the law passed. The year before, Kentucky passed a temporary shared parenting law in 2017. So let's talk about 2016 to 2017. And at that time, before any temporary or permanent law, shared parenting law took effect, Kentucky's domestic violence rate rose slightly. After the temporary shared parenting law took effect, cases declined. Domestic violence cases declined by over 200. And then in 20, permanent custody law took effect, we saw domestic violence cases drop by over 400 more cases. So it was quite a change. We also had, at the time, a shelter director, Shelter of Hope in Ashland, Kentucky. She mentioned in an article that she had also noticed that there were fewer people who were checking into her shelter that were victims of domestic violence who had children. She said it had gone from over half to about a third. We also saw in Kentucky, another administrative office of the courts report showed that overall caseloads had done the exact same thing as the domestic violence cases, and that is they had been rising in 2016, and then they started dropping after the temporary law took effect. And then they dropped again when the permanent law took effect. And after the permanent law took effect, 1,000 less cases in Kentucky. And we think that that's because families who are under less pressure to fight in a winner-take-all, loser-lose-all situation for their children are less likely to beat and end up getting divorced. Some of those families would be able to make it and survive long-term if the child custody laws weren't so confrontational. We have one other point of reference on Kentucky's law, which I think is very telling, and that is we have a Department of Health and Human Services report that we've reviewed, and we compared Kentucky to the neighboring state of Ohio, a non-shared parenting state. And in that we see that Kentucky's child abuse cases dropped. And Ohio's did too. The counties where that small reduction happened are the counties that had better shared parenting laws. Ohio is unique in that it does its percent. They dropped by 30.9%, a remarkable drop-off in child abuse claims in Kentucky after Kentucky shared parenting law was passed. So we've seen that the law is popular, it's helped divorcing families, it's helped children, and we knew that it would pass and then go on and help other states. And we've now seen 4 other states pass shared parenting presumption laws since Kentucky. And I believe there'll be quite a few more.
Hey, Mark, and thank you so much for having me today. Really appreciate being here with all of you guys. So for those who don't know me, my name is Senator Tom Pischke. I'm a senator here in South Dakota. I've actually been a legislator here in the state of South Dakota for 9 years now. I was in the House for 6 years, and now I've been in the Senate for 3. And all during that time, I have been a big proponent of shared parenting and changing the custody laws here in South Dakota. In fact, I've introduced or been part of the introduction of a presumption of shared parenting for every one of those sessions. Many of those years I've been the prime sponsor in the House, and many of those years I've been the prime sponsor in the Senate. There's times where we try to get others and try different strategies as someone being out in front, but always one way or another, I'm always involved in those bills. Unfortunately, that we have not been able to get that bill across the finish line yet. But it was very close this last year. I was actually, as a senator, I was able to get it past the Senate, and then we failed by 1 vote, unfortunately, in the House. So we are really, really close to getting a presumption of equal shared parenting or joint physical custody into state law here in South Dakota. But during my time as a senator here in South Dakota, I've also made other changes to custody laws. For example, I've made improvements to the parenting guidelines. I've also improved the verbiage around the temporary custody hearings, and then also some changes to the provisions in child support. And so I feel like there's definitely been some positive changes that have gone on in the last decade, but there's still work to be done. So, and how this has affected myself is that as a non-custodial person or non-custodial dad myself, I actually live in this world every single day. That was actually the reason that I got involved in this world, is that I went through the divorce in 2014 and kind of got the short end of the stick in the custody court and decided that I was going to do something about it and take matters in my own hands. And I decided to run for the House of Representatives here in South Dakota. So that's kind of my story, and that's kind of what's going on here in South Dakota. But really excited about everything that's going on all across the country and all the great speakers you have today. And so I just wish everyone here the best and that we all stay united. And so again, Mark, thank you so much for having me. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, for having me here. I just want to thank my dad also, who is here today watching me give this speech. I really hope I make you proud. So my name is Taylor Ray Jones. I'm from Lake City, Florida, and I'm here today not only as a guest speaker, but as a former alienated child turned wife to a non-custodial father and now advocate. 4,963 days. Yeah, you heard me right. 4,963 days. That's how long I was alienated from my dad. From birth to 9 years old, my dad was allowed to have me 100 and, the typical every other weekend. But that custody order would fail to be followed or enforced. So from then on until we were united at 21 years old, it was a grand total of 4,963 days that I spent apart from my dad. This happened not because my dad didn't want to be there, not because he didn't try, not because he didn't love me, but because he was pushed out by a system that allowed it and choices that weren't his. I spent 4,963 days hearing one version of who my dad was. I grew up with a carefully crafted narrative and no room to question it. I was told what to think, what to believe, how to feel, and I was sold a lie. And deep down, I started to wonder what was wrong with me. Why wasn't he around? Why he never called? And maybe I just wasn't even worth showing up for. But I would soon find out the truth with a phone call at 17 that would turn the story I was told about my dad upside down. When my dad's sister gave me his phone number and told me to hear him out, I found out he never stopped showing up. It was just made impossible for him to be let in, leaving him to sign over his rights to me in 2006 anymore. Reunited on the day most girls dream about, their wedding day, and for their father to walk them down the aisle. For me, that dream had always felt out of reach. But that day, even when my refrigerator broke and I showed up late, none of that mattered. Because as soon as I arrived, my dad and I locked arms, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had him. Like I had my dad by my side. And that walk down the aisle meant more to me than words could ever explain. You see, being alienated just didn't steal time. It stole birthdays, holidays, memories, and moments I'll never get back. It shaped the way I saw myself and how I trusted people and how I measured my own worth. But let me be clear. Reuniting with my dad didn't undo the pain. Child psychological abuse leaves deep, lasting scars. But that's the part of alienation no one talks about. It doesn't stop when you grow up. It follows you and rewires a lifetime. It has affected me emotionally, psychologically, and relationally. I've dealt with chronic psychological distress, carrying anxiety, fear of abandonment, and an overwhelming pressure to be enough or just to keep people from leaving me. I live with attachment issues, constantly battling between needing connection and fearing it. I've experienced trauma, and not always the kind you see, but the kind that settles in your nervous system and whispers, "You're not safe. You're not wanted." This abuse also left me with an identity crisis, a fractured sense of who I am. And when you grow up hearing one parent's voice, you lose part of your story. You lose half yourself. And I've carried all of this into adulthood, into my marriage, into my friendships, into how I parent. And I've struggled with abandonment issues, believing people will leave, assuming I'm too much or not enough. And that's not just emotional baggage. It's a legacy of a system that failed to protect me from being used, manipulated, and emotionally torn in two. And that's why I'm here today, along with Mark and Ryan Powell and the amazing other speakers here, speaking to you all. I'm not just sharing my story, I'm standing in it, so no other child has to lose what I lost. I advocate for equal share parenting because children deserve more than survival. They deserve stability. They deserve balance. They deserve both parents. But more importantly, they deserve protection. Because what happened to me wasn't just unfortunate or a high conflict situation. It was child psychological abuse. And it doesn't matter what label you slap on it, whether you call it parental alienation, gatekeeping, coercive control, or anything else. My abuse was real. I grew up isolated from one parent, conditioned to hate him, and taught to reject love that was mine by birthright. That is emotional abuse. And when a child is psychologically manipulated to fear, reject, or hate a safe parent, it leaves wounds that don't just heal with time. We have a diagnosis for this. We have a solution. We don't need more debate about terminology. We need action. We need to focus on the kids still living in this, not arguing over what to call it. And the solution starts with equal share parenting. Because 50-50 isn't just about fairness. It's about safeguarding a child's mental and emotional health. It's about giving them access to truth, love, and both halves of their identity. It's about preventing the long-term trauma that happens when one parent is erased. Because when we ignore alienation, we don't just create broken families. We create broken children who grow up into broken adults. I can't change what happened to me. I can't erase those 4,960 days. I can speak kids and parents still counting. I can fight for 50-50 so no child has to wonder why they weren't enough to keep their parents in their life. So I'll leave y'all with this. I'm here today because I lived what happens when equal share parenting is not the case. No child should grow up questioning their worth. No child should be robbed of love that was always theirs. And no child should ever have to count the days they were kept from a parent who never stopped loving them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lindsay. I'm honored to serve as a board member with TFRM, also known as the Father's Rights Movement. It's truly a privilege to be a part of this incredible event and to witness such a powerful gathering of advocates, organizations, and individuals united by a common purpose, promoting shared parenting and family court reform. It's both inspiring and humbling to see over 45 organizations represented here today, all working collaboratively toward the same goal. Over the past several years, I've watched this movement grow, not only in size, but in strength and impact. The progress we've achieved as a community is nothing short of remarkable. Shared parenting has evolved from a fringe concept to a nationwide movement, thanks to the tireless efforts of dedicated advocates and the ever-increasing support from individuals across the country. Our strength lies in our diversity, men and women, children affected by the system who are now adults, families, and professionals, all standing together to ensure that every child has the opportunity to maintain strong, loving relationships with both parents. I want to take a moment to recognize someone who has been instrumental in this effort, Mark Ludwig. Mark's dedication, perseverance, and boots-on-the-ground activism have driven much of the momentum we're seeing today. We are deeply grateful for his leadership and commitment. I also want to acknowledge the many other advocates working behind the scenes, too many to name, but each of you play a vital role in this mission. On behalf of TFRM, I want to extend our deepest thanks to our followers and supporters. Your voices, stories, and unwavering dedication have brought us to this pivotal moment. Many of you have experienced injustice firsthand, and it is your courage and advocacy that continue to push this movement forward. We are proud to stand with you, we are proud to fight alongside you, and we are more committed than ever to ensuring a brighter, more balanced future for the families across this nation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carl Roberts, founder of Colorado Resilience. We are an advocacy nonprofit with a mission of protecting the health, safety, and well-being of children whose parents separate or divorce. But as all of you know, as noble as this mission is, this is probably the most difficult advocacy arena ever. Probably like you, I didn't choose to be an advocate. God gave me this purpose, and I'm bound and determined to do my part in making this world a better place for our children, grandchildren, and generations to come. My quick backstory is that I was married for 10 years and then spent the next 10 in a high-conflict, six-figure custody battle that never should have been. It started when our two boys were 5 and 7 years old. One night when I came home from work, everyone was gone and all my stuff had been thrown down the basement steps. When they came home, I was smart enough to know she was trying to provoke me into doing something stupid. It didn't matter that I would remain calm. She manufactured an argument and called 911. The cops came, interviewed our 7-year-old, and since he contradicted his mom's story, they left me in the home and told me to keep my distance. Early the next morning, she ran out of the house to get her primary weapon to abuse me and our kids, the silver bullet. It didn't matter that I was a great dad, volunteering at kindergarten, coaching t-ball and soccer, and was very involved. Never once had I laid a hand on my ex or our kids out of anger. Doesn't matter. Since it doesn't even take a sliver of evidence to get a restraining order, lawyers and victim services recommend getting one in place, not for protection, but for leverage. The silver bullet is the go-to strategy for an abusive, alienating parent. Why? Because it works, and there's no downside, and there's no accountability for making false allegations. I'm not here to preach to the choir or complain about how broken the system is. The reality is that there's just far too much complaining and talk and far too little action. I feel that we, the vast shared parenting community, are finally making tangible progress. There are 8 or 9 states that have passed some form of rebuttable presumption of equal shared parenting, with many more having it introduced in their legislatures. While many people and organizations deserve recognition for their leadership and advocacy, at the top of the list are Mark Ludwig, Robert Garza, and the National Parents Organization. If you are not already collaborating with Mark, Robert, and/or NPO in your state, you are doing yourself a disservice. Each is doing incredible work, and if you want reform in your state, you need to be collaborating with at least one, if not all 3. Many factors make advocating in this space incredibly difficult. At the top of the list is that reform advocates are terrible at organizing. Often advocates are broken, or afraid of retaliation from the system, or the situation is behind them and they just want to leave it there and move on. All that is understandable and justified, but more and more, there are advocates like you who are watching this and want to get involved and make a difference. However, even in that subset, it's hard to get 5 people on the same page to work together towards a common goal. There are lots of ideas and too many cooks in the kitchen. The flip side of advocates not being able to organize effectively is that the opposition is organized, well-funded, and willing to lie about you and the policies you're advocating for. For the legislators watching, I want to be crystal clear about what groups oppose shared parenting and why. The primary opposition group is the State Bar Association, and their why is easy enough to understand. It's money. A rebuttable presumption of equal shared parenting dramatically reduces their revenue. The other, likely more powerful opposition groups are the domestic violence lobby and the anti-father groups. Their why is power and control. If equal shared parenting is passed, they know their most effective weapon will be lost. The weapon, false allegations. In short, the equal shared parenting movement is gaining traction and momentum because of the tireless efforts of Mark, Robert, and the many speakers in today's conference, and the tens of thousands of moms and dads and now adult children who have spoken out and taken action. If you're in Colorado, please visit our website at coloradoresilience.org. Let us know your email, which legislative districts you live in, and how you'd like to get involved and help. We host bi-weekly virtual meetings to help one another and to organize. At this point, we have sponsors for at least 2 bills for the next session, but our goal is to have 5 or 6 bills sponsored, introduced, and passed. If not in Colorado, I'm sure Mark and Robert can connect you with those coordinating the efforts in your state. We're making progress across the country, and your help is needed. Thank you again, and God bless.
Hi, Jen Davis, a state rep from the great state of Illinois. I am in D.C. right now, and it is actually a little chilly, and we've been running full steam. I'm in the hotel lobby wearing a hoodie. Like, the temps have dropped. It's been like sweltering. I don't know where you are, but it has been exceptionally hot this past week, so I kind of welcome the hoodie and the relaxed environment. But so forgive my appearance for the evening. We're coming to you super casual. I just wanted to say thank you to Mark. What a great friend that I kind of found in Mark through the years, and what an amazing advocate for parental rights, but specifically fathers' rights, which I know is a critical issue. If you're watching this video and have been watching other elected officials talk, it is an issue that is near and dear to your heart because you have kids who are near and dear to your heart. So in Mark, on the government level, because I know often in government it can feel like your voice is being silenced and that the system is working against you. I wanted to apologize for that. Please know that you have elected officials in state houses all across the nation, and Mark has great relationships with them that are advocating for you as a father. Fathers are such a critical role in the development of their child, not just the here and now, but literally for decades to come in their life. If you can be engaged and involved in their life, it just sets them up for success instead of just stress and all kinds of issues by not having a father's presence. And that's just not my gut. That's statistics if you actually look into the studies that have been done on that. But hey, I just want to leave you with a quick thing in the handful of minutes that I have, and it is so easy. 2 words: engaged and enraged, right? It is so easy to be enraged, and rightfully so. And there is a time and a place to be enraged. But I just kind of ask you to put that aside. I watch every day in the capital of Springfield, in the rotunda, people are there, shirts and megaphones and signs, and they're chanting and hollering for causes that they believe in, and they are enraged at government. And we all, I'm just using that collectively, kind of a broad brush, but we'll walk into the chamber and the majority will cast votes that are in complete opposition to everything, the cries literally that you can hear rise up through the rotunda of Illinois, and will cast votes as again, generally speaking, the majority will cast votes ignoring the enragement right outside the chamber doors. So take that enraged feeling and try to be engaged instead, because if you can build bridges with senators, with representatives, with your governor, with maybe lobbyists, whatever that looks like. If you can be engaged, man, can you make a difference. There was a bill this year against the homeschool community in Illinois, a parental rights bill at heart, and the homeschool community fully engaged. They showed up, and holy cow, did they make a difference. This bill that should have soared through, given the supermajority in the makeup down in Springfield, shouldn't have had an issue passing, went down in flames because tens of thousands of people engaged in the process and made sure their voice was heard in a respectful manner. And when you do that, you can make a difference. Here in Illinois, two bills that I'm really focused on. I've been a chief co-sponsor in the past, bipartisan bills, so people across the aisle on issues for fathers' rights. And I'm going to continue being that advocate. I'm going to file my own bill in the coming months for the session coming up in 2026 so that you can have a voice in the state capitol at Springfield, Illinois. I also filed a bill this last session, which I believe is going to get corrected here soon, so I'm really encouraged by the progress that we have made. But parents, whether it's really either sex, male or female, that are working in the evenings, so police officers, firemen, all kinds of medical professionals, maybe you're working night shift in a factory. In Illinois, your child support is based on nights. So now all of a sudden, because you may have your child more hours than your ex, but because you don't have them over the night, you're being penalized and having to pay more. And it's just an inequality that shouldn't exist. We obviously want to support our kids, but we want equality in that, and to make sure that it is an equal playing field for all. So we're championing legislation behind that issue as well to help those who are first responders and they're saving lives in the middle of the night. So let's not penalize them from a parental standpoint. Those are the two bills we're working on. Keep an eye out. Remember, don't be enraged. There's a time and a place. But be engaged and stay engaged. And please know that people like me and others like Representative Sean Ford and others in Illinois, I know Mark knows some, all over the nation, are fighting for your rights as fathers. So stay, man, be encouraged, I guess, enraged, engaged, but I will end it with be encouraged, because we want to be the voice for common sense, for legislation that can greatly mend relationships between fathers and sons and daughters for their longevity and health and mental stability. Have an amazing Sunday, whatever is left of it at this time, and God bless. If you have any questions, give me a shout. 630-724-7600 is my cell. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Great lineup that we just had. I appreciate every single one of them. Just a phenomenal job. I'm impressed so much with all the speakers that have been on today. It's just great to get a chance to get the wide variety of speakers that you're getting. Oh, I got to turn my volume down so you don't hear feedback. I do want to real quick, before we get into some other speakers, give a big thank you. Once again, first off, the big thank you to Brian Lee with Restoring Families Internet Freedom Network, I think it is. I always mess that up. It's RFI.
It's RFIRN, Restoring Families Internet Radio Network.
There we go. Okay. But see, I encourage people and follow. He's on Twitch and he is on Facebook. So make sure that you follow Brian, guys. I can't tell you, this guy put in, I'm not kidding, guys, hours and hours and hours. Not only that, he literally took the day off today. He would have been scheduled to work today, but he took the day off. And he's been like that ever since I've known him. Anytime there's an event, he's always pitching. I can't tell you how many groups have had events in D.C. That he's volunteered his time. So a big thank you to Brian Lee. I also want to thank Dixie Banner. I don't know if Dixie's watching or not, but Dixie, I sure appreciate you. She is, bless her heart, she's put up with me. I am horribly unorganized, and I'm horrible at delegating. Unfortunately, I've got to delegate now. We have too much going on. So that's why I am looking for more volunteers. So if you guys would like to help, I'm literally putting together teams in every single one of the 50 states. I'm also putting together regional teams based on sections of the country. also a national team for Title D reform, Title 4D, and for the Commission on the White House. So several teams of people I'm putting together, in addition to a military team that we're putting together. And you'll hear later on today from Mehdi and, oh my gosh, Mehdi, why do I keep forgetting your friend's name? Erhan. And also Greg from Dads with Honor is going to be a part of that team as well. So if you're interested in helping, guys, shoot me an email to starnetmark@yahoo.com and then put shared parent in all caps, because I get about 600 emails a day. So in all caps in the subject line, so it stands out, put shared parenting hyphen and then either your state or military or something like that. And then in the message, put your name, your address, your phone number, your email, city, state, and zip. Make sure you put your state in there. And once again, it's starnetmark@yahoo.com to send me the email. But Dixie has really started trying to help me become, I know she wishes she had a baseball bat to whack me with, but she's done a great job of helping. I do want to thank once again Nicole Anderson with Parental Alienation Resource Center that has been doing has done a phenomenal job of helping with all the graphics. Family Reunion, which has helped out. I do want to thank Ron for helping. We did have 3 people that contribute. If anybody's willing to contribute, we're going to be listing the people who donate. So if you donate by PayPal or Venmo or Cash App, I think I get an alert on my phone. If you do a Zelle, I don't think I get an alert. So send me a private message or something, because I do want to recognize anybody who donates today. We did have 3 people who donated that we're going to recognize in the 7 o'clock hour. Damian O'Shea, Daniel Martin, and Paul Rydell. And then also, I do want to thank Anthony Cancel, who sent $100 for my birthday yesterday with Pro Say Dads to help with the cause to try and get me back to DC. So I do want to thank you guys. But anybody that can contribute, we're going to definitely recognize you in that last hour and thank you, because you guys are the ones. It's neat to be able to say, hey, Mark went to the White House, but I've got to get the financing house. So it's you guys who make that possible. So if you're able to donate anything at all, we're going to be recognizing anybody who contributes between now and 7 o'clock, almost like a telethon. We're going to be listing you at 7 o'clock tonight. So I think Brian has all the stuff on the little ticker tapey thing at the bottom of the screen there. So if you donate by PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App, I'll see it. So I'll definitely be recognizing you at the 7 o'clock hour. If you do Zelle, make sure you send a message. But I also, I did want to make the announcement too. We did finally launch a podcast. It's just getting started. It's called the 50/50 Advocate. There's a website up that we still have a lot more to do on the website, but I think it's 5050advocate.com. But we are doing that. It's going to be every Sunday night at 5:30, and that actually starts this week. So you'll be able to watch it live. And I'm not sure what all. I'm not really into podcasts at all. So this is all kind of new to me, but I'll be interviewing a lot of the people that we had on today, a lot of legislators across the country, a lot of the leaders every week. I'm going to start picking different leaders to interview. So it should be a good thing. So it's called the 50/50 Advocate is the name of the podcast. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and introduce the next string. And if I'm correct, we're going to start off with Colonel Smith, who is a paternity fraud expert and just a very articulate, what a great leader in the shared parenting community. Larry DeMarco, with the International Council for Men and Boys. Larry is another great leader in the community. You should enjoy him. Brian Ulrich from NPO, a great leader on Title 4D reform and federal issues. And let's see. Cheryl Mefford to identify, diagnose, and connect the dots. So Cheryl's going to be on, and then Gerald Mazezik and Jared, I am so sorry, Jared, if I mispronounce your name, from West Virginia. And then we're going to lead off, though, with Representative Jamie Flick from Pennsylvania. Jamie he is hardcore. The whole reason he ran for office is he went and is still going through a nasty custody battle. So we're going to lead this series off with Representative Jamie Flick from Pennsylvania. And welcome back, everybody. I'm excited about this next guest. I've gotten to know him very well over the last year and a half or 2 years. And I tell you what, I am so impressed every chance we talk. And we talk pretty often, actually, several times a month. But Representative Jamie Flick from Pennsylvania is probably, I believe, and I'm not just saying this because he's here and he didn't pay me to say this, but I believe one of the best legislative reps that we have in the whole country. He has a passion for this. So Representative Flick, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. Great to see you again.
Yeah, I guess before we get started, for people who don't know your background and why you ran, if you want to give us a little background on yourself and why you ran for office.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's relatively unique. A lot of state reps at every state maybe went to school for political science or where they were attorneys. I was a dairy farmer for a good part of my life. And then if you can imagine, then I started an IT company. So my background is farming and IT with no background whatsoever in politics. I don't think I'd ever been to a school board meeting. I'd never been to the Capitol before I ran for office. So,
excellent. And you're in Pennsylvania, which is a unique state. We've had a lot of progress, and it really is an issue for the kids. And I do like that it crosses party lines. We've been able to get representatives on both sides of the aisle, but there's a different dynamic in a Missouri that's a super red state, in Arkansas, Kentucky, a blue state like Illinois or New Jersey, but you're in the middle there. You've got almost a perfect purple state. So address some of that.
Yeah, I think, Mark, we are probably one of, if not one of the most, definitely the most purple states. We've got a governor, Governor Shapiro, that's a Democrat. Our Senate is Republican, and our House, until a couple months ago, was 101-101. Sadly, one of the Dems had passed away, but he was replaced. So now it's 102-101. So it could not be more split down the middle, which is really exciting, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I think you've got some neat opportunities as a result of that. And go ahead and talk a little bit. I know you've been working on a couple of bills, one that you're really pushing on your own, and then some very smart moves that you've done. We don't want to reveal too much publicly, but I'm very impressed that you've been working on some potential moves to get some amendments added on to other bills.
Yeah, well, again, my party's now 102-101. So the state reps that may say, listen, I will never, well, then they're never going to get a bill passed. So early on, and I think it's just my nature, I started a caucus called Meet Me in the Middle, that we bring Republicans and Democrats from the House together. We go to dinner. In fact, we're going to dinner right after this segment, and we just talk about common sense legislation and how the parties can work together for people, and in my case, for children in the Commonwealth. Again, at 102-101, it's critical to work together with the other side. So some of the bills you mentioned, I have a cameras in the courtroom bill that's gained broad support. And that's related a little bit to my House Bill 1499, which, of course, I followed suit with you. So again, I can't send enough accolades your way. And that is similar to what you did in Missouri and in Kentucky and in Florida and Arkansas. And that is to have a presumptive 50-50, if both parents are fit, rebuttable by the judge. So that's sort of the summary or the basic format.
Excellent. And then I know you've been working on a couple of amendments too. Matter of fact, there's a video that's been going around of you that does just dynamite of your floor talk. If you could talk a little bit, that was a great talk you gave. I mean, literally, that's one of the classic talks we'll be talking about forever.
Thank you. What my high school buddies are saying is not bad for a farmer. So that was my first floor speech ever. So a little bit of nerves there, of course, but when you sit back and take a deep breath and say, this is for the kids of the Commonwealth and hopefully throughout the entire nation. Yeah, what I did is I took my entire bill and I attached it as an amendment, because in Pennsylvania, if your bill fails, so you want to be sure it's going to pass, because if it fails, you have to wait until the next session to reintroduce it. Whereas an amendment, if it failed, you can make a couple modifications and attach it onto another, in this case, another custody bill. So that was exciting. I gave the floor speech. We voted immediately after that. Two from the other party actually crossed the aisle. So again, at 102-101, I was very, very excited. Unfortunately, 3 or 4 members of my party did not vote for it, and which happens, right? There's all sorts of reasons. So I'm not belittling anybody whatsoever. But it gave me a great view. Am I only going to get 50 votes? Am I only going to get my own vote? Where do we stand? There's a lot of attorneys, of course, that are state reps. So are any of them going to vote for it? So even though it was most narrowly defeated, I was excited of how close it was. And now I can go back to the drawing board, talk to those 3 or 4 reps from my own team, and draw more support from the Dem side.
Yeah, I think, and I get a chance to get a behind the scenes look at how you do this when we talk privately, but I am very impressed. You've done a phenomenal job, and sort of like you said, you've got to get an idea. So many people go in blindly thinking, oh, I'm going to get all kinds of support. My attitude is, until you've done a tally count or a whip count, you don't know where you are. So for you, you are so close in Pennsylvania right now. I mean, I really believe that we're going to get this across the finish line at some point. And I think you've just done a masterful job of being able to work with both sides and not polarize. And that's one thing too. For myself, I think a lot of people know I'm about as far right as they come politically. But if you watch my personal Facebook, people wouldn't really get that idea because I don't come across polarizing on my. So if you're dealing with legislators and you're an advocate, I encourage you, be careful how much you have to ask yourself, are you interested in pushing your general agenda or the shared parenting agenda?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
For myself, I've always put my personal, political agenda sort of to the side because I need both sides of the aisle and I can't be polarizing this issue.
Yeah, likewise.
And you've done a great job.
Thank you. I need both sides of the aisle here, of course, also. And again, the governor's from a different party. No matter how hard we work on this, he could veto it, right? One swipe of the pen. So I was with the governor last night. I've been with the governor several times to discuss this legislation. Also, the lieutenant governor last night, who actually, the lieutenant governor, Austin Davis, was a co-sponsor on this legislation years ago, Mark, when you came to Harrisburg with Representative Sue Helm when we ran through this. So we've learned a lot, even from that. As you've stated many, many times, and I didn't want to believe you, but you're spot on. This takes time. You don't come in as a freshman, write your bill, and get it passed the first week you're in here. So we're close.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and not to plug my training, but that really is true. So many people come into this and they have no idea. And these are people who aren't even legislators. At least you are a legislator. And even as a freshman, people get a little blindsided. But imagine somebody with no political background. They're not even in the legislature. I always tell people, we need to educate you so that you don't end up closing some doors and making some missteps that could cost us a couple of years in that state. But I guess any closing advice that you would have for people that are watching this and say, boy, I'd like to get involved. What can I do? What are things to keep away from? And what's your sort of philosophy to everybody watching this today?
Yeah, Mark, it's similar to yours, and that is be respectful. So when you knock on the door of your state rep or your senator, or you make the phone call or you send the email. I mean, if I get the nasty emails, they're gone, right? I throw them out. So be respectful. Understand that the process takes time. It takes both parties, again, especially in Pennsylvania, and be patient. I know it's hard. You went through it. I went through it. You want to almost blow your brains out as you're going through it. We're getting there. We really are getting there. I'm excited in Pennsylvania. I'm excited for the work you're doing in DC also, which is a whole different segment. But thank you for all the work you do. And we'll be having you in Pennsylvania soon as we proceed through this.
Excellent. Well, I thank you once again. Like I said, you've been just a breath of fresh air to the whole community. I sure enjoy talking to you all the time and really look forward to doing more with you in Pennsylvania. And good luck at the World Series. I know Williamsport, the home of the Little League World Series, that you're actually very involved in.
I am. I'm a volunteer. Actually, we just had a drawing last week, so I have the Midwest.
Excellent.
So it could be a team from St. Louis that I have the 12 kids that I'm hosting this year. So it's fun stuff. But we'll have to have you in. I will throw a little plug if people want to follow me. It's just repflick.com, and then they can get all my emails and stay in touch with me for this House Bill 1499.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. We sure appreciate you, and we will be talking to you later.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mark.
Hi, I'm Cornell Smith, the paternity coach at thepaternitycoach.com. I help women, men, and families address family identity issues by using DNA testing, law, and advocacy. Many of those people approach me trying to solve the mystery of who's related to you. And the best answer for that is DNA testing. After my own experience and a 5-year fight to the U.S. Supreme Court, I found it necessary to push for legislative reform, and I won my own case after the U.S. Supreme Court turned down my appeal. And I did so by co-writing the law in Georgia back in 2002. But what is the issue here? The issue is that whether it be by paternity fraud or by paternity mistakes, 30 of the males tested annually turn out to not be the father. That means we've identified over 2 million men and boys who were accused but confirmed by DNA as not the father. 4 paths to paternity fraud. 1. Signed confession, also known as voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. The Paternity Opportunity Program. Other names where men and boys are led, induced, or persuaded to sign a document without proof that they're the father. Number 2, marital presumption. Husbands are automatically assumed or presumed to be the fathers of all of the children that the wife has. However, in cases of infidelity, the wife is not required to inform her husband that there are multiple paternity candidates, and oh, by the way, he might not be the father of any of the children. Number 3, incorrect default judgment. Incorrect default judgment. This means by the stroke of a pen at an administrative or family court hearing, any man or boy can be determined to be the father without any proof by virtue of the fact that he's not present on the day of that hearing. That includes military men who are deployed in the country, out of the country, off doing some other service, or sometimes they mistakenly think they don't have to be there. It is a fatal error when you can sue someone for paternity. Number 4, mistaken identity. Mistaken identity. You can be guilty of being the father of someone else's child because you happen to have the same name as the biological father, as one of my clients did. So these 4 paths lead to paternity fraud, and these are not mistakes where material facts are sometimes not provided to the court, sometimes are not provided to the alleged or accused male, and these are readily identifiable issues that can be addressed by DNA testing. The impact, having interviewed a few hundred, a couple thousand of these men, and had some teenage boys also proven to not be the dads. They've said they have felt an emotional, mental, and financial impact when they've had to pay for children that are not theirs. They felt they were used, abused, and deceived about the paternity of a child that was proven by DNA testing as not their child, and they had no hand in creating this child. This leads to anger, anxiety, frustration, depression, and in one of my clients, self-deletion, hopelessness. And some have tried to use drugs and alcohol, which is a highly ineffective coping mechanism. And what are the other consequences? Loss of liberty, jail, prison, felony charges, credit ruin, bankruptcy, job loss, business loss, lose your driver's license, your passport, and have your assets seized. Now, who opposes this reform? Did you know that in Title 4D of the Social Security Act, that federal taxpayer dollars are being used to reimburse the states as high as 66% to reimburse them for their expenditures on the eligible child support enforcement activities? And these are bonus incentive payments are awarded to the states using 5 factors. Number 1, paternity establishment. 2, support order establishment, collections on current support, on collections of arrears, and cost effectiveness. But the paternity establishment does not require accurate establishment of paternity. So by any means that we can get someone to sign, or we get a judgment on him by administrative or family court, he is guilty of causing the pregnancy, whether the DNA says he did it or not. States should make money off this. What are the solutions? Reform Title 4D. Deduct state bonus payments for misidentified father cases. The state should make money off of it. We should have prenatal DNA testing at the 8th week. DNA testing at birth, codify the statutory rights of men and boys against involuntary servitude, counseling service for affected men and children, financial recovery for damages. It is possible to provide remedy for those men and boys and the children who are affected by paternity fraud and paternity mistakes. If you'd like to learn more, you can connect with me. You have questions about reform. Maybe you might even be a person who have a personal story you might need to share, or you want to know, has paternity fraud happened to you? Scan the QR code here over to the right. It'll connect you to thepaternitycoach.com, or you can enter thepaternitycoach.com on your browser. Connect with me on Facebook. Get a copy of Trapped by Law, the ebook or the paperback, on Amazon. I am Carnell Smith, the Paternity Coach. I look forward to working with you if you're interested in advocacy and legislative reform at the federal and the state level. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Larry DeMarco, founder of the Law Center. I'm excited to announce a new revolutionary online program designed for child custody litigants called the Family Court Custody Bootcamp. Attorneys' fees for high conflict custody litigation averages $77,000, which makes legal representation unaffordable for anyone but the very rich. Now, I've produced a comprehensive, transformative family law program affordable for everyone. I've spent over 10 grueling years in custody court, mostly as a self-represented litigant. I've also spent 30 years representing low to middle income clients, and I've spent the past 5 years volunteering for parents' rights organizations, learning that I wasn't the only one who had nightmares in the family court system. I discovered that the majority of us in custody court quickly burned through all our savings early on, leaving us as self-represented litigants. For my own personal case, I was fortunate. As a trained, seasoned litigator, I knew where to look, how to navigate the labyrinth of the family law legal system so I could protect myself and my family. But as a family court self-help desk volunteer, I learned that others aren't so lucky. They had horror stories of paying legal bills that were so expensive they cost as much as a law school education itself. Research tells us the family court is over a $50 billion annual industry. As a 30-year practicing attorney, I know the secrets. The collection lawyers for family law bills teach other lawyers how to obtain liens against their own clients' homes to secure their bills. Child custody lawyers teach marketing techniques, training each other to ask prospective clients, well, how much is your child worth to you? This is done despite that what a family lawyer knows is comparably small compared to other areas of law. The standard to meet to get what you want in court is that everything must be in the best interests of the children. That means what the judge says it means, the best interest of the children. Things in family court can be as simple as that. To me, the solution to this problem is clear. If 90% of the litigants in my county can't afford a family lawyer and show up in court alone, then they need to be taught everything they need to know inexpensively, efficiently, and thoroughly in simple, understandable terms. That's what the Family Court Custody Bootcamp is. A comprehensive crash course education on child custody litigation. In this program, the lessons are thick with content, dense with information, and specific enough to empower you with the skills you need to present yourself in court as the good parent that you are. That having been said, I don't recommend that you go the distance completely alone. After you complete this thorough legal education, I recommend you retain what's called a limited scope lawyer to do whatever you feel the least comfortable with, whatever those few things are. However, anything that you can accomplish yourself, you receive substantial savings by becoming as self-sufficient as possible. This is what the Family Court Custody Bootcamp gives you, the tools to be self-sufficient. Do everything you possibly can for your own and only use an attorney for what you feel that you can't. And the material is presented in simple, easy to understand terms. Despite receiving hours of high quality legal, the cost is extremely low compared to its value. It's about the same amount you'll pay for a 2-hour initial consult with a lawyer before the lawyer even starts to do the work on your case. You can sign up for our mailing list for many opportunities for discounts. A quick word of caution. There is no technical legal advice provided in the program. That you only get in a one-on-one consultation with a private attorney. But what you do get in this program is a complete education. The stuff that you learn in a college or university. You might be wondering, does it work? Well, our past program participants, which includes advocates and family court professionals, rave about its value and effectiveness.
I thought it was probably the best use of my funds over the last 6 years that I've been engaged in litigation. I've looked into other courses and as pro se dad in the United States, and I haven't been able to find a course that is equal to the content that Larry represented in the family boot camp. It's chock full of rich resources. He probably has the premier program for individuals representing themselves.
I went through this program that is just helped me so much to be confident and to learn what I needed to learn in order to represent myself. And that really got me prepared and learn terminology and learn where to look for things and learn how to put together evidence. And I'm just so happy that I met him. I'm happy that I took this. His course is just unbelievable, and I really highly recommend it if you're in this kind of situation.
I'd like to recommend to you that you consider a course that we've taken, Wisconsin for Children and Families, that really helped with family law and understanding how the process works, so there isn't a bunch of fear. And it really helps you understand the whole process of how the family court flows. So you're not afraid, you understand how it works.
I strongly recommend this boot camp, okay? I very much wish I had seen this at the start of my journey through the court system. And I would recommend this whether you intend to represent yourself, whether you expect to have expensive lawyers represent you, or something in the middle. I would 100% suggest that you take this entire boot camp thing. This is going to be the quickest, clearest explanation of what you can expect during your trip through the family courts.
Larry has put together a program that not only teaches you what these attorneys know, but you could almost end up knowing more than these attorneys. I would strongly recommend any parent who needs to be pro se in court or considering using a limited scope attorney to take Larry's course.
The program was energetic, dynamic, and engaging. I wish I had 3 hands so that I could give him 3 thumbs up. It's that good. You'll get your money's worth, and you're going to walk out with resources you never expected to find. So if you're having custody issues and don't have the $50,000 to spend on an attorney fees, take this program. I'm glad I did, and so will you.
I would never recommend anything to anyone without trying it first. Larry DeMarco's Family Court Boot Camp is a program I would highly recommend to prospective litigants.
The operations director of the National Parents Organization said it's a really detailed and informative course and a great value for the money. National Parents Organization is happy to recommend the Family Court Custody Boot Camp. So what are you waiting for? If you're involved in custody court with or without an attorney, as a litigant or a nonprofit advocate, this program is for you. Just go to our website and sign up today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you online.
Has the family court system damaged your relationship with your child? Were you shocked by how little due process there was? You're not alone, and now you can be part of the solution. For the last 11 years, Mark Ludwig has led the charge for shared parenting reform. He's met face-to-face with over 700 legislators, hosted over 70 events, and pushed legislation in 31 states just last year. Now he's building something bigger. The A-Team, trained advocates in all 50 states. People like you stepping up for kids and real change. By joining Mark's Legislative Leadership Development Program, you'll get strategy sessions with Mark and guest legislators, on-demand training videos, research and AI tools to influence lawmakers, and a seat on Mark's legislative team. We're meeting with lawmakers in just 2 weeks, and we want you in the room. Don't just hope for change, be the reason it happens. Join the movement, join the A-Team. Visit stlmarkludwig.com and click the membership tab to get started.
Yeah.
Take over for a few minutes. I got to do this video. There was no sound to it.
Okay, and the next one's going to be Cheryl and Jared then?
It will be... For a few minutes, I got to do this video. There's no sound to it. Well, Jared we already did. It will be Brian Ehrlich and Cheryl Mefford.
Oh, Brian Orrick. Yeah, Brian Orrick and then Cheryl Mefford. Okay. All right. All right. Oops, let me turn my volume down here. So while he's working that out, yeah, we do have Cheryl Mefford coming up, guys. And like I said, I can't say enough about her. I've got her book over here. Really is just a great guide. I really like it. So I've been cruising through it. Every once in a while I quote stuff. If you see some of my memes, some of them I've gotten directly out of her book. And then Brian has been a great wealth of information. More information out once again. And I don't want to come across like the constant salesperson. But very legitimately, if you're wanting to get involved, we need you trained. So 2 ways of doing that. One, I've got a training class I'm doing. It's going to be a very limited class size that we're putting together. So if you're interested in being part of the next class size, you can go to stlmarkludwig.com and click on the training class. It's going to start whatever the third Monday is in July. It's 4 Monday nights, 3 Wednesday nights. It's all, so if you miss it, don't worry. It's going to be recorded. And as long as you paid for the class, you can watch it as many times as you want on your own schedule. But the pre-register, we're going to give a discount, an early bird discount. And normally it sells out before that early bird runs out. So if you're interested in being a part of that class, I encourage you to go to stlmarkludwig.com. The other thing we have going is the Legislative Leadership Development Program. It is an ongoing resource, and that's on the same page, stlmarkludwig.com. So you'll see either the training company or the membership class is a good way to get involved. So I don't know if Brian's ready yet with the videos or not. Feel free to go ahead and put those up if you do. Brian, I'm not offended if you cut me off or if you're still working on them.
Yeah, give me about another minute and a half.
Okay, all right. I did want to, we did have 2 people that donated. Hold on here. Let me grab their name. Hold on here. Our first 2 donations of the day, Matthew, I apologize. I think it's Matthew Romikis that contributed and Clay Thompson that contributed. So I want to thank the 2 of you very much because like I said, guys, the door is open in D.C. We have never had in 40 years an opening at the White House, the highest level of HHS, and members of both the House and the Senate at the federal level in D.C. And literally, not only is the doors open, they are literally waiting for me to get back to D.C. So the only thing holding me back is funding. And we've had some people, we've had Ron and a few other people that have contributed to help get me to some of these trips. But it's just, you can't have just a handful of people foot the bill for everything. So if anybody can contribute, you may not think it's a lot, guys, but trust me, if everybody watching this today, and I don't know throughout the day how many people are going to watch this, but imagine if everybody watching this could pitch in 25 bucks. Guys, I'm not kidding. That would be enough money to fund every trip that we would need to take. Every meeting with every legislator would be a done deal if everybody watching this would pitch in 25 bucks. And my attitude is not everybody has the time to go to DC or the contacts or knows to do when they get there. And I don't mean it to sound arrogant, but I've been doing this for enough years. I know what to say when I get there. I've got the time and I've got the connections. All we need is for some people, you know what, I can't make it there, but I do work a job during the week. So while Mark is taking time going to DC, I don't have to take off work. Why don't I pitch in 25 bucks? Because long term, he's probably going to save me in my legal bills and my child support payments and alimony payments if I get him to DC. So if you guys can pitch in, Brian has put all the stuff at the bottom of the ticker tape, but the Venmo, the PayPal, the Cash App, stuff like that. But I do want to thank, like I said, before the show, we had Damian O'Shea, Daniel Martin, and Paul Rydell. And then during the show, we've already had 2 people donate, Matthew Ramikas and Clay Thompson. But I want to thank you guys very much. So if you guys can continue to help out, like I said, the door is open. I've got meetings waiting to take place in DC if I can raise funds to get back up there again a couple more times. So anything is definitely appreciated. So I don't know if Brian's done not. If not, let me see what else we do have, because we do have quite a few more coming up. We've got a great lineup. I'll just keep talking to Brian. Oh, you're ready to go? All right, so we'll go ahead and get on with videos then. We do have coming up Cheryl Mefford, and first Brian Ulp, and then Cheryl Mefford.
Mark, I was wrong.
Okay.
Give me another
talking
second.
and just feel free to come on and interrupt you whenever you're ready to go. By the way, we have our third donation. Connecticut, if I remember right. But he's been in the community a long time. I know his name starts with like, I guess it's, shoot, Peter, I am so might be the name. Brian, do you know, I mean, we all have a long time, and I definitely appreciate the program we're going to have. Brian Ulrich and
talk about child opportunity to present today. Mark Ludwig's done a fantastic job putting this together. Very much appreciate it.
So, Brian, tell me, how did you get started with the National Parents Organization, and what's your background with child support?
So, my background with family law reform overall dates back to 2009. When I'm a resident of Minnesota. When I first started working with an organization called Center for Parental Responsibility, led by Molly Olson, I ended up connecting with NPO when they requested my assistance in 2019 to help put together a study of child support.
Yeah, and that study was really a landmark study. And if you look at it, there's really quite a bit of variation.
No model of calculating cost of raising children that's done by the USDA found that the current method of calculating child support across the states results in orders that far exceed the actual cost of raising a child. And we also found, as you mentioned, tremendous variance between states in what those orders calculated out to.
From what I know about the system, there's really not that much guidance from the federal government as far as what the states need to adhere to. I know they have to review it. What is it, every 4 years? But it doesn't seem like beyond that, there's a whole lot of guidance from the federal government. And is that what's leading to this lack of standardization?
Yes, very much so. In my opinion, at least, given what we see and how these calculations go, it was not a wise move for the federal government. They're the ones that set this program up, and then they just tossed it over to the states. They didn't even define what child support was.
And aren't the states, they're incentivized by how much child support they make people pay and how much they collect and those sorts of things. I mean, tell us a little bit about the incentives that the states have with the Title 4D program.
These orders end up, as I mentioned, in many cases far exceeding the actual cost of raising children. One thing I wanted to share in this presentation that's really, really important for people to take in. There was a study done under the leadership of Stephen Eldred in Orange County, California, some years ago, where he asked his program, his department, to evaluate what impact they were having on poverty in their county. And the result of that study was truly, I guess I'll call it sickening, saddening. What they found was that of the payers, 90% of whom are fathers, 10% are mothers, but of the payers that came into the child support program that were not impoverished when they came in to be a child support payer, were impoverished after becoming a child support payer. 50%, one half. And this is a program that nationwide has about 15 million children enrolled in it. So what that does to our societal underpinnings, you can only imagine. There is a theory by too many in the child support arena that work in child support who have believed that the larger the payment that can be generated, that's in the best interest of the child. Well, in fact, we know through extensive amounts of studies that children benefit most when they have both parents involved in their life. The consequences of that are substantial. Less pregnancies, better outcomes at school, less drug use. The benefits are remarkable for these children. And after all, this is about the children. This is about taking care of the cost of raising the child. So, impoverishing one of their parents is not in a child's best interest. We've seen over the years, unfortunately, that people involved in the child support system too often view that as the maximizing the child support amount as the end goal. Certainly it needs to be adequate for the cost of care,
and welcome back,
it should
everybody.
never be impoverishing one of their parents.
Yeah, that's an incredible statistic. I mean, those are huge numbers, and to put that many people under the poverty line, it's really incredible.
And not all recipient parents have tremendous amounts of resources. However, they have access to tax benefits that are fairly substantial. In essence, the federal tax code and some of the state tax codes have almost created a separate child support system all of their own. With the head of household and child tax credits, the different benefits that flow through to that recipient parent, not to mention the public assistance programs that they often uniquely qualify for that the payer does not.
I know a few years ago they changed it so alimony was taxable, but child support isn't. So if people are paying child support that's above the cost of care, that's effectively alimony that's not taxed.
Your point is well taken. It's understood, but there's been no accomplishment in addressing that yet.
I want to talk a little bit about parenting time offset and how that really affects orders. And, is it true that numerous states still don't have a parenting time offset in their orders?
Remarkably, that is true. At our study that we did several years back, we saw that about 7 states had no offset. So not only are these parents paying, orders that are more than the cost of raising the child, but then when they have the children, they're being given no credit or deduction for the costs they're incurring when they have them. So it just adds further to the unfairness and ridiculousness.
And on the federal level, are there any changes that we can make at the federal level to really impact this program in a positive way?
Well, one of the things I would suggest is that we look to establish what is child support, that the federal 4D program address that as the cost of raising a child. If you were to ask people on the street what they consider to be child support, the majority of them would answer, well, that's taking care of the cost of raising a child. That is not the way the system was developed in the late 80s. And remarkably, for all these decades, the programs made very little changes to that. Another significant area that we haven't talked about is child support enforcement. And there's one thing in that area that is really creating a lot of havoc for paying parents. And again, these are both fathers and mothers. And that is the credit reporting requirements that are under law in the states. This was added as a requirement back in the late 90s. And at that time, credit reporting was not nearly as threaded into our society as it is now. When you get reported with a negative credit report, especially if it's child support related, it has significant impacts on very many important areas. Another area that doesn't get enough consideration in the credit reporting is that insurance rates are now tied to that. And it can make a difference of hundreds of dollars a month. So there are so many negative consequences of that. It should be written back out of the federal law.
Fantastic. And if people want to learn more, they can go to the National Parents Organization website, and you can go click on issues and then child support. And there is a ton of information on that website. Brian, any closing thoughts on this topic?
Just to emphasize, this is a program, MPO supports the child support program as an important social safety net. However, it has significant flaws that need to be identified. We have worked to identify those, and they need to be addressed and fixed.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. And thank you to Mark Ludwig for putting this on. And we really appreciate your input on this topic.
Good to see you again, Chris. Appreciate it.
Before I get started, I want to say a few words about my dear friend, Mark Ludwig. Mark, thank you so much for everything you do for this community. You are an incredible example of leadership, determination, and humility. You lead not for recognition, but out of a deep and genuine commitment to making a difference. With every step you take, you selflessly illuminate the path for others, showing what's possible when heart, vision, and action come together. You don't walk this path alone. You bring up others with you. Always empowering, Mark. You are the change. I'm so grateful for your leadership, your example, your constant source of inspiration, and most of all, your friendship. Hi, I'm Cheryl Mefford, the founder of Parental Alienation Speaks. This organization started as a blog in 2018 and became a nonprofit organization shortly thereafter. Our goal is to spread awareness to the world through evidence-based resources. Over the years, I've attended several conferences, and I've taken a survey of participants that included counselors, social workers, attorneys, and other child advocates. And what I've learned is that 65% had never heard the term parental alienation. So that begs the question, how do we identify something if we don't know what it is? According to research, parental alienation is the result of an alienating parent's coercion, control, and generation of fear in the child toward the target parent, making this a very complex form of family violence. It's typically enacted over time alongside clusters of behaviors with the intent of destroying the child's relationship with the parental figure and or to hurt the parental figure themselves. It affects approximately 3.5 million children and 9%, or approximately 30 million parents in the United States alone. It affects both mothers and fathers and occurs in intact and non-intact families. It does not discriminate. It affects all socioeconomic and demographic indicators. 25% of children from high conflict breakups will become alienated, with over half of cases reported as severe. And research shows that poor psychological adjustment occurs as a result. Experts call parental alienation no longer a custody issue, but a child protection issue, an unacknowledged form of family violence and psychological maltreatment. We use the 5-factor model to determine if parental alienation exists. All of these must be present in order for it to be parental alienation. Number 1, the child exhibits refusal to engage in contact with a parent. Number 2, the child previously shared a positive relationship with a now rejected parent. Number 3, the absence of any abuse, neglect, or seriously deficient parenting by the now rejected parent. Number 4, the alienating parent engages in various behaviors identified among the 17 primary parental alienation strategies as outlined by Dr. Amy J. Baker. And number 5, the child exhibits attitudes that align with the 8 specific behavioral irregularities identified by Dr. Richard Gardner. There are 3 levels of severity of parental alienation. In mild parental alienation, the alienator is engaging in 1 to 2 alienating behaviors, and the child may show initial resistance towards the target parent, but enjoys it once interaction is made. In moderate alienation, the alienator is engaging in several alienating behaviors, and the child adamantly refuses contact with the target parent, but will reconnect once the alienating parent is absent. And number 3, in severe alienation, alienators are engaging in persistent, frequent, and numerous alienating behaviors with no intent or capacity to change. Their primary goal is to completely sever the child's relationship with the target parent. The child is completely rejecting the target parent and firmly believing, without valid reason, that the parent is dangerous, unworthy, or unloving. There are 8 factors that determine how alienated a child will become. Number 1, the specific alienating tactics employed. Number 2, the combination of tactics used together. Number 3, the frequency of occurrence. Number 4, the length of time the tactics are in use. Number 5, the severity and intensity of the tactics. Number 6, the child's age and personality traits. Number 7, the amount of meaningful parenting time the target parent has spent with the child. And number 8, the strength of the child's relationship with the target parent before the alienation began. behaviors exhibited by a child experiencing parental alienation. Number 1, there's a campaign of denigration against the target parent. The child becomes obsessed with a hatred of him or her. Number 2, there are weak, frivolous, and absurd reasons for the rejection of the target parent. Number 3, there is a lack of ambivalence towards the alienating parent. One parent becomes all good and the other is all bad. Number 4, the child strongly asserts the decision to reject the target parent is his or her own will. Number 5, there's an absence of guilt about how the target parent is treated. Number 6, there is reflexive support for the alienating parent with no interest in hearing the target parent's point of view. Number 7, the child uses borrowed scenarios and ideas adopted from the alienating parent to make accusations against the target parent. And number 8, the rejection spreads to the target parent's entire family, including friends and relatives. If you are one of the 30 million parents experiencing parental alienation, I want you to know that I see you and you're not forgotten. To download a free copy of my evidence-based resources and to sign up for my free e-course, please go to parentalalienationspeaks.com. I'm Cheryl Mefford, and I'm fighting for childhoods. Free e-course, please go to parentalalienationspeaks.com. I'm Cheryl Mefford, and I'm fighting for childhoods.
You're on, Mark.
Oh, okay. Did we get Jared's video?
Gerald's video is during the 6 o'clock hour.
Okay. All right. So do we have Summer in the waiting room now?
There is nobody in the waiting room at this moment.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and let me reach out to Summer real quick here.
Here, I'll go ahead and play one of the promos.
Has the family court system damaged your relationship with your child? Were you shocked by how little due process there was? You're not alone, and now you can be part of the solution. For the last 11 years, Mark Ludwig has led the charge for shared parenting reform. He's met face-to-face with over 700 legislators, hosted over 70 events, and pushed legislation in 31 states just last year. Now he's building something bigger. The A-Team, trained advocates in all 50 states. People like you stepping up for kids and real change. By joining Mark's Legislative Leadership Development Program, you'll get strategy sessions with Mark and guest legislators, on-demand training videos, research and AI tools to influence lawmakers, and a seat on Mark's legislative team. We're meeting with lawmakers in just 2 weeks, and we want you in the room. Don't just hope for change, be the reason it happens. Join the movement, join the A-Team. Visit stlmarkludwig.com and click the membership tab to get started.
Oops. It was supposed to be 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Correct. Okay. All right. I guess I'm back on. I think I may have messed up with Summer, so I'm going to go ahead and cover other things. And Summer's going to come on probably after Jim. I did want to thank, we've had a couple of donations come in, so I do want to thank you guys, because like I said, guys, the door's open now. I mean, the hardest part is getting the doors open and having the connections. And it's taken years to be able to penetrate the White House, HHS, the House, and the Senate. But the doors are open now, and now it's just a matter of getting some people up there to talk. So I do want to thank some people that have made some donations. As I mentioned, Peter, I am so sorry for butchering your name. I think it's Sismonic, but I do want to thank Peter. David Chasteen. David has helped out in the past, so David, I thank you very much. Brandon, I want to thank you. Rob Tucker, Cheryl Mefford, who we just had on to speak. And like I said, guys, I encourage you to get her book. And also Tia helped out. So thank you very, very much, guys. I appreciate that very much. A couple things that we do have coming up in the near future while we wait. And Brian, if you can put in the chat if Senator Runstead joins the waiting room. But in the meantime, just a couple things that we do have coming up. I mentioned we do have the podcast coming up. That's going to be Sunday nights at 5:30. I am going to start doing some Facebook Lives on Tuesday night again. It's been a while since I've done a regular one every single week, but we're going to start doing a few more of those. So this Tuesday, I'm going to be on a Facebook Live on my personal page. And Jamie Ray Gregg, the representative that you heard from earlier, he and I are doing some things across the country with a lot of legislators. We've got a shared parenting caucus of about 60 state legislators across the country that are all supportive of our shared parenting issues. So what we're working on is getting all of the members of the caucus working together, understanding what's going on, and really getting some momentum going into 2026. And we've got about 60 legislators that are part of the caucus so far. Our goal is to get that well over 100 legislators before January. And like I say, a chance to hear more of that. We also do have, as I said, the training class. Like I said, I know it comes across like a la da 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 da, but I don't mean it like that. Actually, if you're wanting to get involved, we need you trained on the right methods. Every once in a while, I'll have people that'll say, well, we need to get shared parenting passed at the federal level. And I'm excited that somebody wants to get that done. Unfortunately, that's not a federal issue. And so if you were to mention that to either a state legislator or a federal legislator, we lose a little credibility because their attitude is, as much as I like this person and I want to help them out, in the basic of civics yet. So what we need to do is get you some of the basics so that when you meet with a legislator, you don't say something like that kind of, in a legislator's mind, they're like, man, I don't have time to educate this person on the process. So we're going to teach you the basics. Title 4D, that's a federal level. Why? Because it's a funding mechanism. Shared parenting is a state level. There will never be a shared parenting law. What we can do is shared parenting is a prerequisite to getting some of the federal funds at the federal level. But that won't be an official bill that's going to pass. That's going to be a directive. Very similar to during the Biden administration. They had, if you wanted education money, there were strings attached. You can have the education money, but your state has to pass a bill recognizing different DEA programs. So the federal government didn't tell you which DEA things to pass. They just gave direction. We want to do the same thing with Title 4D. We can't tell the state you have to pass a bill that says this, this, and this. It's not going to happen at the state level. But we can give direction that says, hey, if you want to have Title 4D funds, you can have them, but the string attached is you have to address the importance of both parents being involved as equally as close as possible at your state level. Now that gives direction to the state and gives them some incentive to pass a bill pretty darn quick, but they're going to lose their federal funding. So things like that we cover in class. We cover why do you need to know who a majority leader is? Why do you need to know what the majority whip is? How do you give a testimony at a Senate hearing? How do you coordinate a team at a Senate hearing? All kinds of basics like that are things that you need to know if you're going to be going to your state capitol. So we
is in the night, rising strong to make the wrongs alright. No more tears, no more stolen dreams, families torn apart at the seams. Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Our courts are contaminated with young, inexperienced caseworkers and polluted with bribes, high-priced bonuses for speedy adoption of terminated parents, and judges who don't practice law with the Constitution in their sights. This is a problem.
They take away the fathers, leaving just a mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem. Stealing our kids, it's not mama drama. Stand up for those who are lost to them. We need to fight for the family, making America great again. CPS comes along with the mission to protect. The only thing they are doing is cashing in those checks, paid for by the souls of the children, diagnosed by a caseworker who is still a baby herself. They take away the fathers, leaving just a mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem. Stealing our kids, it's not mama drama. Stand up for those who are lost to them. We need to fight for the family, making America great again.
I'm, just your average parent trying to do right by my kids. Never thought I'd have to, deal with something like this. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon. The kids' toys were scattered everywhere. Then there was a knock at the door. My heart sank when I saw who it was.
Hello, I'm from Child Protective Services. We've received a report and need to inspect your home.
I didn't know what to do. They wanted to come in, look around, talk to my kids. My hands were shaking. I felt like I was doing something wrong even though I knew I wasn't. But then, I remembered something I'd read online about knowing your rights. I took a deep breath and said, I'm sorry, but unless you have a warrant, I can't let you in. The CPS worker looked surprised. They weren't used to parents knowing their rights. It wasn't easy, but I stood my ground. I protected my family's privacy that day. Remember, when CPS knocks, know your rights. It can make all the difference.
Imagine being a child who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stopped the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scraped their knees. Now just imagine how they might'st feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calm. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.